Welcome to Daughter of Darkness, an epic fantasy audio drama presented by Heroes of Providence Eternal. Written and produced by Jonathan Reichel, with additional voices by Ruth Elizabeth, Heather Masher Reichel, Emily Jarjura, Sam Wilkinson, Ariana Chang, Jared Pearson, Owen Calvetti, Isaac Phillips, Raymond Bronco, Sarah Durham, Jeff Maloof, and Dale Reichel. To explore more of the world of Tareth and adventure with the characters of this story, visit heroesofprovidenceeternal.com. Your adventure begins now. Something was wrong. Ari could sense it in the frozen air. She stopped to gaze more deeply, yet her keen golden eyes saw nothing amiss among the pine trees she trekked through. She slid her blonde hair behind her long elven ears, hoping to better hear that which she could only feel. Yet she heard nothing but the creak of the levitating wagons and the footsteps of her caravan crunching through the fresh snow. Shadows moved deep in the forest. She reflexively rested her pale fingertips upon the long scar coursing down her neck. Her priestly training had taught her to perceive dark forces, though she had not been sleeping well. Perhaps her mind was playing tricks on her again. A gentle hand upon her shoulder returned her to the moment. Her dear friend, Soreth, inquired,
"You've frozen still. Do you wish a blanket, my dear?"
Soreth had awkwardly stepped down from the levitating covered wagon she was nestled in, offering Ari the blanket she had double-wrapped around her generously pregnant belly. Soreth began to tumble off balance, caught in the last moment by her keenly attentive husband, Captain Tumult. His ocean blue eye searched his bride instantly for any injury. He exhaled in relief. His caring voice jested, "Me love, ye seem to balance better on me swaying ship than upon slippery snow." Soreth giggled and placed her palm upon his cheek affectionately.
"Oh, tummy, I'm still not accustomed to carrying a cannonball in my belly."
She kissed him thankfully. Ari giggled.
"It warms me more than that blanket to see an ex-pirate take such good care of his treasure. Please keep the blanket, my dear Soreth. We have few left."
Breck, a mercenary hired to escort the caravan, finished trotting his horse up past the 24 travelers. He halted his brown steed next to the 3 who had stopped in the snow. His gruff voice snapped,
"You'd think an arcanist would be able to warm herself. Can't your damn kind summon fire at will? Could use a bit of that with this blasted blizzard rolling in,"
he interjected, souring the moment. He rubbed his frozen arms, shivering. Tumult quietly grit his teeth, considering, about to verbally bludgeon the lout. Soreth rested her lithe hand upon Tumult's arm, attempting to soothe her husband. Ari sensed the tension and spoke to the sellsword with melodious gentleness.
"Dear Sir Breck, I'm sure you mean well to compliment such an esteemed arcanist as our Soreth, yet those such gifted know the risks of manifesting arcane powers while pregnant. Risking the health of her child by sapping both their essence would be beyond reckless. Though I'm sure your intent in the suggestion was pure?"
Ari firmly confronted. Breck spat.
"What kind of priestess would drag a fool pregnant woman through the snow? What are you worth?"
A cold gust of wind blew Soreth's hood back, whipping her long silver hair in the snowdrift and exposing her short, pointed ears. Breck noticed the shape of Soreth's ears and snorted.
"A human fraternizing with 2 damn elves? As if a Verdelvan priestess weren't enough. We now have a desert rat with us? What fool's errand would draw Calum Shaw this far north?"
Tumult could contain his indignation no longer and snapped.
"Mind your tongue lest ye lose it. Not only do we pay your way to Sanubis, but we've just brought life to a desperate village near here. Do you think your people this far north of Icebrook Kingdom would survive another winter without the aid and supplies our caravan just delivered? Perhaps a shred of gratitude would taste better in your mouth than the filth that spews forth from it."
Gobsmacked, Breck shifted his eyes between the 2 elves and the captain resting his hand upon the hilt of his saber. The mercenary stammered nervously, tipped his hat, sharply kicked his horse, and retreated to the rear of the caravan. Tumult muttered under his breath, "Next time I shall ask Sacris to protect our caravan, instead of relying upon blasted mercenaries." Agitated by the stress, Soreth hissed, pressing her hand to her belly, feeling the child kick. Ari noticed the pain and whispered a soft prayer to El Shaddai. Holy golden light enveloped her palm as she rested the warmth of her healing hand upon Soreth's abdomen. Ari calmly offered,
"Perhaps you should have heeded Father Geno's counsel to stay in the safety of Sanubis."
Soreth exhaled deeply and admitted,
I respect Father Gino dearly, but I simply could not let the children of Icebrook starve while I sat and waited for mine to arrive.
Tumult carefully helped his wife remount the wagon seat. He comforted.
Thankfully, we should be home among the clouds of Sanubis in just a few days' time.
He kissed her lips, nose, then forehead gently. He whispered between each kiss, My light, my life, my love. He enveloped her completely in his own kraken skin cloak, trying to warm her as the snowfall started to intensify. He scanned the horizon and spotted the mouth of a cave behind some berry bushes. He calculated,
And should the blizzard not cease, at least we may claim some brief respite nearby.
Ari walked forward ahead of the covered wagon. She smiled at the thought of returning to the sanctuary of home in Sanubis, until her heart nearly stopped in her chest. In her soul, she sensed a deep, otherworldly growl that could not be heard audibly, emanating from the encroaching shadows. She closed her eyes, and through the snowfall, she could feel the darkness begin to materialize. Glowing crimson eyes opened, staring directly into her soul. Then another pair of eyes, then a dozen. She snapped her golden eyes open again and saw her nightmare become reality. The shadows between the trees started to morph into beasts made of darkness. Prowling predators larger than the brown horse seemed to coalesce from blades of black smoke. 6 legs crushed the snow beneath each monster. She gasped, seeing each beast bare their 1,000 razor-sharp fangs made of shimmering nightmare, each snarling in savage bloodlust. In an instant, she heard a terrifying scream of fear cut short from the rear of the caravan. She heard the thundering hoofbeats of the brown horse. It galloped wildly past her, carrying the pieces of what was left of Breck's corpse in the saddle, off into the white abyss. Chaos erupted as the dozen monsters began ravaging through the caravan. Instantly, Tumult unsheathed his saber and roared.
Head down, my love!
He grabbed a fistful of Semexid dynamite sticks from the strongbox and slotted them into his belt. He glanced up and saw that most of the caravan had swiftly been torn to shreds, unaware. Blood painted the white snow. He leapt off the wagon to slash his blade down through the head of the closest encroaching ravager, slicing it in two, red smoke gushing out. The beast stumbled backwards to the ground. Ari swiftly prayed to El Shaddai and began circling those who remained alive in golden shields of holy protection. Beastly claws tore at the protective light barriers, draining her. The 6 ravagers who had finished their massacre of the caravan's rear flank began prowling in a pack directly towards Ari. Tumult's eyes went wide. He swiftly ignited a stick of Semexid dynamite on his flint band and hurled it with expert precision towards the pack. The beasts of shadow exploded into a swirl of thick black smoke, tongues of red lightning crackling within the congealed nightmare. He turned his focus to another ravager tearing at the leg of a dwarven archer. Tumult sliced 2 of the monster's legs clean off. The ravager hissed and spun around, slashing Tumult's arm and thigh deeply with claws of vile horror. He roared in pain. Ah! Ari strengthened the shield of holy golden light around him, mitigating the savage wounds. The 6 ravagers that Tumult had obliterated began to rematerialize from the red lightning smoke of their demise. To Tumult's horror, they were again whole, prowling directly towards Ari. The single ravager pinned Tumult to the ground and began slashing him with savage ferocity. Tumult gripped the maw of the beast open, punching it in desperation, fangs tearing through the skin of his fists. Soreth screamed in terror. She could see Ari's golden shields of protection begin to crack around Tumult under the assault of the ravager. She feared she would watch the love of her life be torn to shreds in front of her. Without thought, Soreth wreathed her hands in arcane flame and launched a blazing fire lance towards the beast. Ari and Tumult's eyes went wide in horror as the wild flame chaotically erupted from her unbalanced palms, igniting the wagon and the beast atop Tumult. The remaining case of Semexid dynamite in the wagon with Soreth began sparking from the flame's ignition. A prowling monster leapt atop the covered wagon, sniffing for Soreth. She shrieked in fear as the beast opened its 1,000-toothed mouth and inhaled, siphoning her and the child's glowing blue arcane essence into its maw. The ravager pinning Tumult lit a flame, began tearing the flesh of his arms. He furiously pummeled the monster with a roar of defiance. The pack of 6 Ravagers snarled savagely, a scant few paces from Ari. Closer, closer. In their most desperate moment, time slowed for Ari. She closed her eyes and unlocked a deep pain that shot through the long scar on her neck. The holy golden light that emanated from her palms morphed into a swirl of purple symbols that erupted from her fingertips. From her left hand, she enveloped the pack of 6 Ravagers in a storm of violet light, and with her right hand mirrored the effect around Tumult and Sorith. The fuses of the Semexid dynamite in the strongbox under Sorith hissed near their end. In a flash, the purple arcane symbols around the monsters, and the 2 souls Ari loved, inverted through space and time, swapping their places. Sorith and Tumult fell safely at Ari's feet. The pack of Ravagers fell down upon the wagon. The moment the case of Semexid dynamite ignited. The explosion blasted a large crater in the snow. The shockwave forced the trees to sway in the distance. Ari screamed and clutched the long scar on her neck as it glowed a tortured purple. The last of Ari's holy golden shield around her friends dissolved, the energies emanating from her extinguished. Tumult, nearly shredded in his wounds, clung to his wife, his blood soaking her robes. He gurgled blood up his throat and spat it into the snow to speak.
We haven't much time.
The lone 3 survivors glanced back at the carnage of bodies and the coalescing shadows reforming into beasts of nightmare. Tumult sheathed his saber and the last of the Semexid dynamite in his belt and gestured towards the nearby cave. The 3 locked arms and dragged themselves toward the opening. They glanced back and saw the swirling blades of shadow reform into the dozen red-eyed nightmares prowling towards them. The 3 staggered desperately. They finally entered the mouth of the cave as the blizzard intensified, making the world outside disappear. Only the pack of red eyes were visible, encroaching closer, closer. Ari and Sorith stumbled deep inside the dark cave. The Ravagers enclosed the entrance, tendrilled tongues licking serrated lips. Barely standing, Tumult ignited 2 Semexid dynamite and roared defiance as he hurled them with precision towards 2 support stones. In an ear-shattering explosion, the rumbling cave-in sealed the entrance, and the world went black. Ears rang violently as Tumult's fingers traced the cave walls towards the sounds of Sorith panting. His human sight adjusted to the darkness slower than the elves. The glowing teal mushrooms lining the cave walls helped slightly. Tumult finally collapsed next to his wife. Sorith was heaving, arcane exhausted, and soul drained by the Ravager. She wailed in regretful agony.
No, no, I used the arcane, no. I did not mean to, it all happened so fast. What have I done?
She pressed her palms to her swollen belly, terrified she had wounded her child. Tumult tightened his kraken skin cloak around her. He hissed in pain, removing his blood-soaked outer vest, sacrificing to her and the baby any further shred of warmth. Ari prayed through labored breathing. Her golden light enveloped Tumult, sealing some of his most effusive bleeding. Sorith's eyes began to fade, nearly lost in soul-drained fatigue. Ari gasped to Tumult.
We're losing her. If she falls unconscious in this cold, she's unlikely to ever awaken.
Tumult desperately calculated. We must keep her mind active and her body warm as you heal her. He began rubbing circulation back into her extremities, fighting the edge of frostbite. Ari wondered.
What do you suggest we do to keep her mind active?
She began pouring fresh healing into Sorith, but clutched her own neck, feeling the long scar upon it still glowing a tortured purple. Sorith's eyes fluttered open, glancing up at the suffering priest. Sorith's voice thinly whispered.
Ari, out there, you performed an arcane exchange. You swapped our places with those Ravagers. Before the explosion, even the most gifted arcanists envy such a feat. That skill is impossible to a priest. How did you come to learn the impossible? Why have you never told us you were capable?
Tumult, encouraged by Sorith's interest, suggested, Please, Ari, reveal to us these mysteries as I build us a fire. Your words may just keep her mind alive. Ari considered and touched her scarred neck, hesitant. Sorith's eyes began to fade. She whispered,
I beg you. Please.
Ari clenched her teeth, closed her eyes tightly, and whispered,
As you wish. These mysteries began in my enchanted homeland of the Verdell Forest.
Through the distant fog of memory, Ari, a child then, appeared no more than 10 years of age to human eyes, giggled in the sunlight. Shafts of golden rays kissed her cheeks, dappled through the vibrant green leaves of ancient trees. Her then violet eyes traced the ray of arcane frost soaring through the air from the small hands of her best friend, Vivienne. The two giggled, chasing a sparkling flutterwing through her estate's glowberry bushes. Viv challenged.
I shall catch it faster than you, Sunshine.
Just as Viv began cackling at her boast, her long black hair caught in a branch. She let out a squeal of pain. Ari, inches from catching the flutterwing herself, abandoned her prize and swiftly turned to her friend to help untangle her hair.
Let me help!
Ari offered, beginning to make her hand illuminate an ethereal purple shimmer.
I can do it myself.
Viv smacked Ari's hand away, gripped the beautiful branch, and broke it off of the bush, leaving a bundle of glowberry twigs stuck in her hair. Ari's eyes widened, shocked at the outburst. Viv posed, jesting.
How do I look?
Ari considered.
To be honest, your hair looks a bit bushy now.
Viv shriveled into a scowl, absorbing the droll phrasing. The two girls then exploded in playful laughter, only to be interrupted by Ari's mother, Lysandra, calling from high atop her ornate balcony.
Arieva of House Valdore, I've been looking everywhere for you. Say goodbye to Vivian at once and move with haste. Your father has nearly returned home from his travels.
Ari squealed in delight.
Ada!
And looked at Viv with unspeakable joy. Viv called up to the balcony.
No, Miss Lysandra, my Ada told me to stay as late as I wish.
Matron Lysandra furrowed her eyebrows and whispered under her breath.
By the Emperor.
She exhaled and considered her words carefully.
Perhaps I did not make myself clear. While we're honored that your illustrious father has encouraged such delights, I must insist Arieva bid you farewell for the eve. We have intimate family matters to attend to. I'm sure your esteemed father, Lord Desiree, will understand.
Viv crossed her arms in a huff.
Zam! I was just about to catch that flutterwing, too.
Ari seized the moment and quietly sang an enchanting melody. Ari seized the moment and quietly sang an enchanting melody that sparkled faint purple light through the air. The flutterwing followed the ethereal sound of her voice and landed upon her finger. Her mother's eyes widened, noting her daughter's unique arcane ability. Ari offered the flutterwing to Viv. Surprised, Viv whispered,
How did you do that?
Ari shrugged her shoulders. She sensed within Viv a flare of jealousy that her face did not betray. Ari wondered how she sensed it. Viv smirked, thanking her, and pocketed the mystical creature. Lysandra bowed curtly.
Your house escort is at our front gate. Please do send my kindest regards to your magnanimous father.
Viv disappeared around the Valdore manor. Lysandra called down to her bedraggled daughter.
And you cleanse the dirt from your visage. No maiden ever amounted to anything with an ugly face.
Ari's eyes widened. She sprinted inside to clean up for the long-awaited reunion. She feverishly washed the dirt off her face and donned her favorite necklace. It bore a simple wooden triangular charm, a precious gift from her father's journeys. She had never known what the symbol meant. Perhaps she would ask tonight. Just as she was considering, she heard the massive front gates open. She sprinted down 3 stories of opulent stairs into the grand atrium. She beheld the radiant glow of her father's face beaming.
Where is my sunshine?
Ada!
Ari leapt into his arms, his cheer spinning them around like a dance in the ballroom. He finally twirled over near his wife, and Lysandra kissed her husband's cheek softly and murmured,
Welcome home, Raylan, my dear.
Lord Raylon's highborn servants provided the family a grand homecoming feast. The patriarch regaled his wife and daughter with exciting tales of his diplomatic travels through Molten Reaver lands and beyond. Then the family prepared for bed. As Raylon began tucking his beloved daughter under her soft glisten-webbed sheets, Ari begged.
Ada, tell me a legend, one of the ancient days.
My sunshine, but I'm exhausted from my journeys.
But Ada, I've waited 2 moons. Please.
He gazed down at her hopeful face and melted into her adorable eyes.
Oh, as you wish, my sunshine.
Ari placed her hairbrush behind herself on the bed. She flipped over onto her tummy and rested her chin upon her palms in rapt excitement. Her Ada sat on the warm bed, smiled, and began brushing her golden hair affectionately. She cuddled closer.
I shall tell you the legend of your great-grandfather, Eldrin Veldori the Brave and True.
Lysandra leaned up against the bedroom doorframe, arms crossed, listening to her husband. He continued.
Legends tell that Eldrin could read people in a way that could not be taught, discern the truth of their thoughts, sometimes better than they could. Something about his voice could touch people in a powerful way. His ethereal battle cries could inspire the hearts of those he commanded. He could weave his voice with the arcane, amplifying its power like a tapestry of song.
Ari's eyes widened in excitement, considering.
Ages ago, dark forces invaded our sacred lands. The titanic creature of shadow and nightmare, Bahirath, sought to plague and enslave our people. In its wrath, it advanced to corrupt our sacred portal, the Etherstone Arch, gifted to us by the dragon paragons. In our people's most desperate hour, Eldrin called down stars from the heavens and forged a legendary blade, the Star Shard, our family heirloom.
Raylon gestured through the bedroom door to the weapon, an ornate masterpiece displayed central in the grand atrium.
In my grandfather's final act, Eldrin bravely wielded the Star Shard, and enhanced by his ethereal voice, he sundered the nightmare, Bahirath. He scattered its dark essence and banished it beyond the portal.
Ari's mouth fell agape in awe.
Truly legendary indeed. His blood runs in your veins, my sunshine.
He ran his fingertips through her soft blonde hair in adoration.
Some elven kind at the time whispered that your great-grandfather must have been blessed by a divine force.
Lysandra scoffed.
Our history is clear on the matter. Eldrin was a capable military commander of intellect and strategy, nothing more. Perhaps it is unwise to fill our impressionable daughter's head with exaggerated fictions. Only the superstitious lowborn believe such nonsense.
Raylon raised his eyebrows at his wife and glanced back at Ari, pursing his lips humorously. He whispered,
Perhaps they are not alone in their belief.
He winked. Ari smiled, returning the wink. Lysandra redirected.
Regardless of the veracity of the past, what certainly requires focus now is Ari's future.
Indeed, my love.
He nodded to his wife. Returning his smile to Ari, Raylon continued.
While your mother and I place different value on the lessons of history, we both agree that if you are anything like your great-grandfather, you, my sunshine, are destined for greatness. Who knows, one day you may even be called to train at the illustrious Tower of Periculum.
He glanced at the chronometer on the wall.
Stars above, look at the hour. You've tricked your Ada into entreating you far past an elfling's time of rest.
Ari giggled and shared a kiss upon the cheek with her Ada. The door closed, and her dreams swept her away into ages of legend. She thought she may have heard yelling downstairs, but perhaps she had just dreamed it. Far too few days passed, and Ari heard an aggressive slamming on the front gate. One of Raylon's closest confidants, Commander Valenwood, came to report the dire news that the Ogre Wars had erupted on the western edge of the forest. Raylon's conscription was required near the front lines to direct Imperial logistics. Valenwood knelt down and whispered to Ari, whom he loved like his own niece.
My dearest sunshine, I'm so sorry to take your father away from you. I shall protect him with my life.
Ari wept at the news and hammered her soft fists upon her father's ornate chest armor as he embraced her. She begged him to stay. He explained he needed to go to keep her safe. He embraced his daughter with all his soul, placed her in the arms of her mother, and kissed his wife. Lysandra stared at him with a cold expression. She closed her eyes, shedding a single tear down her cheek. The door slammed upon his exit, echoing ominously through the empty atrium. In less than 1 moon's time, the Veldori estate received crushing news. Lord Raylon had died heroically on the front line of battle within the cursed Molten Reaver volcanic lands. Ari wept bitterly as Lysandra seemed to take the news with a haunted face of stone. In the decade that passed, the distant ogre wars raged on, and House Valdore fell into steep decline with the death of their patriarch. To cover the heavy labor and upkeep of the estate, matron Lysandra, in desperation, replaced all her paid highborn servants with lowborn slaves. None of them were gifted by the arcane. All were mired with the pale jade skin tone of the rural elves. One of the slaves was a much younger elfling named Talia, nearly half Ari's age, who was assigned to attend her personally. On Talia's first day, she timidly entered Ari's bedchamber and witnessed Ari clutching something small in her hands. Ari wept, rocking back and forth. Talia's quivering voice inquired,
"Milady, if I may ask, what troubles you?"
Ari, startled by her exposed vulnerability, wiped her face of tears, feeling disheveled.
Apologies. Forgive me. It's nothing. No maiden ever amounted to anything with an ugly face, after all.
Recalling her mother's saying, Talia timidly approached.
"If I may, I don't think crying is ugly at all. What could be more beautiful than a heart honestly shown?"
Ari considered, warmed by the words. She chose to expose more of her heart. She opened her palm, revealing the wooden triangular necklace.
This was my father's last gift to me before I lost him in the war. I never got to ask him what the symbol meant.
Her voice trailed off. Talia gazed upon it, a tear gliding down her cheek.
"I am so sorry, milady. I understand how you feel. My Otto left for the ogre wars, and he never came back. I have nothing but his songs to remember him by. The histories shall forget him, forget me, forget my family name."
Ari's eyes opened to a deep pain beyond her own.
Please tell me, what is your family name?
Talia whispered.
My family name was called Esperis. It means hope in the ancient tongue.
Ari extended her hand to Talia, inviting her to sit on the bed with her. She gazed deeply into the child's moist eyes.
I shall not forget it, my dear Talia Esperis.
The two embraced and wept in a way that opened the floodgates of grief. Ari placed her hairbrush on the bed behind her. Talia picked it up and began brushing her hair. Together, their hearts began to heal, sharing stories and songs of their fathers late into the evening. Every night thereafter, Ari would place her hairbrush on the bed behind her, and Talia would brush her hair as the two talked about the most meaningful issues on their hearts that day. The two would sing angelic songs together that soothed them both. In time, their bond became as close as sisters. Ari's friend Vivienne became concerned, expressing her wariness seeing Ari spending so much time with a low-born slave. Yet Viv, too, had blossomed into her giftings of the arcane, displaying frost-touched skills that turned the heads of many potential suitors. As Ari neared her 20th birthday, Vivienne's father, High Imperial diplomat Count Desiree, was invited to dinner at the estate. Devastating discussions of the protracted ogre wars filled the air. News reports hinted that dark alliances were forming between the vile ogres and the dreaded Molten Reavers. To calm the tensions, Ari was requested to conclude the evening with a hauntingly beautiful song. As her voice ignited the room, the guests marveled as the sparkling purple glow emanated from her voice, enhanced by her unique arcane giftings. The song's ethereal beauty swelled their hearts, inspiring, elevating their souls more powerfully than any natural song could. The diplomat's eyes widened, perceiving the legendary talent of the girl. Count Desiree brought news of Ari's unique giftings to Emperor Sylaxus himself. Intrigued, the Emperor summoned her. Upon the court being entreated to her talents, Ari was swiftly elevated to a hallowed position as the Imperial Ether Song. New lyrics were provided to Ari, carefully scripted by the Empire. Thousands of soldiers preparing for fresh deployments to war were commanded to assemble in the sprawling Imperial amphitheaters. There, soldiers and civilians experienced Ari's voice, echoing songs of worship to the Emperor, tales of heroes' exploits, and powerful words to stir their hearts to the cause of glorious conquest. After one such performance, Ari exited backstage, still drenched in sweat from her impassioned singing. She instantly felt the jerking motion of Vivienne's elbow claiming hers, swinging her around in exuberant praise.
Your voice made even the stars above quiver. What glories you inspire!
Viv illuminated her own hand in blue arcane light, erupting a burst of glistening frost, filling the air like a firework. Snowflakes showered down around them as she spun them both in glee. Viv jested.
If only I were touched by the ether instead of the frost. I might join you on stage in a duet.
Ari sensed a hint of forlorn yearning in Viv that neither her voice nor face revealed. Ari comforted.
I assure you the work is far less glamorous than it seems. None of the mountain of blush upon my face is real, but the river of sweat dripping from me certainly is.
She furiously wiped the makeup from her face, just as bright fire lit up the sky. Shocked, both maidens looked up to behold the son of the Emperor descending. Bright orange flames blasted from beneath his feet and fists as he landed from his flight with effortless ease. His eyes closed, head tilted down. Both maidens' mouths went dry, not due to the heat, their pulses quickening. His long black hair framed his chiseled jawline like an onyx waterfall cascading around diamonds. His royal red robe's black edging caught the flame's light with its gold filigree. The long fabric fanned out in a breeze like the feathers of a regal phoenix. He inhaled deeply, refueling his flame-touched powers. He slowly tilted his head up, unleashing his eyes upon them. Ari felt struck by lightning as his amber gaze met her violet eyes. Viv audibly gasped, slamming her palm over her embarrassed lips. Ari's eyes went wide, instantly regretting her half-wiped-off makeup on her now clownish face. The other half of her makeup was smeared on the forearm of her now mired purple robes. A flush of intense embarrassment filled her cheeks as she stammered, not knowing what to say. The prince noticed her embarrassment and smiled with a charm that instantly disarmed the maidens. His suave, dulcet voice purred.
I must say, I'm rather fond of the new look coming out of the Valdore estate. It has a certain, contrasting allure to it.
He casually gestured to the half of Ari's face, swiped with messy makeup. Trying to endear herself to his humor, Viv burst out laughing, far louder than she had planned, turning the heads of many of the Imperial guards nearby. They dismissed her as an effusive supporter of the crown. The prince's eyes also went wide at Viv's outburst, enjoying the absurdity of the moment. His kindly laughter helped relieve the tension in both maidens' shoulders. He mused.
And it appears the famous Ari Ava of House Valdore is not the only one that has a memorable volume of voice.
Concluding his good-natured chuckle, he offered.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am Cynthia of House Malore, and it is a great pleasure to make your acquaintance.
He offered his open palm to Ari. Viv slid in front of her, interrupting, and inserted her hand into his first. The prince pivoted with smooth grace to take the new hand shoved into his. She interjected.
Oh, we are intimately aware of who you are. Words of your dashing exploits are whispered throughout the Empire, Prince Cynthia.
She slightly raised her eyebrow, inviting his gaze upon the curves she presented.
I am called Vivienne of House Desiree, and knowing you shall be my deepest pleasure.
Her voice lingered upon a few choice words.
Please, consider it mutual.
His gracious voice assured. The prince bowed to Vivienne in a courtly manner. His eyes finally shifted to Ari's. She felt butterflies dance within her. He offered his hand again to her and whispered.
I must say, of all the voices of the Empire, I have never been so moved as when I savor yours. Your passion for our people ignites me.
Ari almost saw a flicker of flame caress the deep amber of his eyes. Her heart quivered. She slid her lithe hand into his and felt a deep connection. Her dry mouth found its voice.
I'm humbled by your kindness, Prince Cynthia. I simply serve the Empire as I can, just as everyone else.
The prince complimented.
Oh, I assure you, some serve more profoundly than others.
He glanced over to Viv, then back at Ari.
And please, call me Sen.
Viv's expression cooled like frost. He continued.
That is indeed the reason I hope to meet you. I have a rather delicate matter that is of great import to the future of our people, and I would be deeply appreciative if you would be willing to offer me your talents in its pursuit.
His disarming smile and encouraging eyes seemed to speak to Ari's soul before a single word left her lips.
I would be honored to serve the Empire in any capacity the Emperor pleases.
Ari assured sincerely. The prince's eyes smiled into her heart more warmly than his powers of flame.
I do so love good news. Shall my carriage pick you up at your estate tomorrow at sunset?
Ari cleared her throat, considering the rare honor.
As you wish.
The prince bowed graciously to both maidens, glided backwards a few steps, red robes flowing with lyrical grace. He inhaled deeply, ignited flames around his fists and feet, and took flight up into the starry sky. That night, Ari felt as though she had floated home, so many butterflies in her tummy carrying her. Talia bathed and robed her heiress as Ari regaled her with stories of the evening. Ari flopped on her bed, laying her hairbrush behind her. Talia giggled and began brushing her hair, urging her to continue her story.
And that is the moment the son of the Emperor lifted off into the sky as a phoenix rising. I've never seen anything so majestic.
Ari bit her lip, coyly replaying the stimulating interlude in her thoughts. Talia read Ari easily.
Milady, it seems Prince Senthier left quite the impression.
She winked knowingly. Ari giggled, blushing.
None of that matters, though. What matters is the service I might offer the Empire tomorrow eve.
Ari straightened herself, feigning an attempt to focus upon business.
And what service might that be?
Talia wondered. Ari considered.
He did not mention specifically, but I gather such secrets shall be revealed soon enough.
Talia glanced down at the hairbrush and back into Ari's eyes.
Milady, are you nervous?
Ari paused, heart thudding.
I'm terrified,
she admitted. Talia nodded and glanced down at her own pale jade wrist, sliding off one of her two matching wooden bracelets. The loop was simple of natural materials, yet hand-carved with ornate symbols.
My people, the Aruna of the deep forest, we carve stories of our history and prayers into loops like these, for strength and for hope.
She offered it to Ari.
Perhaps it might offer you some strength, should tomorrow prove burdensome.
Ari's heart melted at the gift. She accepted it into her palms with treasured reverence.
My dear Talia, you do more good for my heart than you know.
She compared it to the wood of her father's triangular necklace. She noted the beautiful similarity in its craftsmanship, clearly carved with love.
I shall wear this and think of you always.
She embraced Talia with profound gratitude. The two concluded their evening rituals together. Ari then fought against sleep, her mind racing through the possibilities the following day of destiny could bring. The next morning's arcane studies and etiquette exercises moved with glacial speed as Ari yearned for the moment she could see Sen again. That moment finally arrived, with a melodious trumpet heralding the sound of an imperial presence entering the Veldore estate grounds. Ari sat demurely in the grand atrium where she awaited her escort. She gazed up at the legendary star-shard blade displayed prominently in the dais high above the fireplace, considering its hallowed history. She glanced out the tall front windows and noticed something unusual. A row of ornate guards adorned with the colors of her family heraldry lined the path awaiting the imperial carriage. Her mother must have hired them for the day to give the impression of greater wealth than they had in their estate's present decline. Ari glanced over at Talia with a panicked smile. The little girl peered through the crack in a distant door's edge, hoping to comfort Ari with the sight of her presence. Ari's mother glanced feverishly out the window, calculating the approach timing. She turned to her daughter and demanded she stand. Ari obeyed swiftly, eyes wide at the frenetic energy. Lysandra barked.
This moment is critical for our estate. You are to do anything the Empire demands without question. If we are to prevent the collapse of the Veldore name, we must again become essential to the Empire. This burden is upon you, my daughter. Do not fail me.
Ari twisted her face in concern, feeling the tension emanating from her mother. Lysandra sighed at her daughter's facial contortion, lamenting.
And don't furrow your brow. No maiden ever amounted to anything with an ugly face.
On the edge of panic, Ari fingered her wooden bracelet and glanced over at Talia for comfort. Talia breathed deeply, gesturing for Ari to do the same. Lysandra noticed Ari's distraction and whipped her head over to see Talia. She hissed.
Be gone from sight, lowborn. Royalty approaches.
Talia's eyes went wide, startled. She swiftly escaped view and closed the door with practiced care to make no sound of her existence in esteemed company. Lysandra's eyes narrowed at Talia's door in contempt.
I have my suspicions of why so many of our family heirlooms seem to have gone missing as of late.
She exhaled sharply in veiled fury. Ari's mother turned her back on her daughter to face the approaching opulence. She pasted on her best imitation of a smile, transforming instantly. The ornate carriage was drawn by beautiful blue forest foxes made of light. Their translucent forms sparkled with an arcane energy. The carriage opened, and a steward of the Empire greeted the ladies of the manor warmly.
I bid thee good evening. I am called Alistair Penwell, steward of His Highness the Crown Prince Cynthia of Imperial House Malore. He requests the esteemed audience of one Arieva of House Valdore.
Lysandra's eyes darted everywhere, hoping to glance at any sign of royalty. She was crushed to see she would not have the chance to leave any impression directly upon the eyes of anyone who mattered. Ari glided down the walkway hesitantly, fearing the large fox illusions the size of horses. Alistair smiled.
Fear not, madam. The beasts are but illusionary, compliments of Cynthia's personal preference. Their bite only tickles the senses.
He winked charmingly. He offered his hand graciously, helping Ari into the levitating carriage. He clasped the door softly behind her. The carriage ride through sparkling forests and past glowing waterfalls flew by as her heart fluttered in anticipation. Glancing out the window, she could have sworn she saw strange shadows moving deep in the forest. The thought quickly left her mind. The carriage finally opened near the top of a cliff overlooking the Imperial Valley. The steward, Alistair, graciously offered his hand for her to step down. He whispered warmly,
I do so hope you came with an appetite.
He raised an eyebrow and smiled, gesturing to the marvels beyond. He bowed as she glided forward. Rounding the corner of an immaculately manicured thicket, she beheld an ancient azumaya covering a carefully laid out dinner setting. A towering figure in silhouette, whose back was to Ari, was gazing over the breathtaking valley. The figure turned, revealing her date. The shadows were illuminated by the invigorating glow of Prince Cynthia's amber eyes upon her. In a moment, she struggled to remember any scrap of etiquette training she had drilled into her the last decade. The prince approached, easing her stress.
It does me much good to see you again, dear Arieva of House Valdore. My mind has thought of little else.
He offered her his hand kindly.
I beg you, call me Ari, your highness, as I'm humbled to serve the Empire.
His courteous kiss upon the back of her hand sent shockwaves through her senses.
As you wish, Ari.
His smile genuine.
Please make yourself comfortable.
He slid her chair out for her and ensured she was seated safely before taking his own. Alistair served the first course, smiling paternally at the two, lost in conversation.
May thy feast be as satisfying as thy company, compliments of the palace.
The artistry upon each plate sparkled with arcane enhancement from the finest imperial chefs. The prince gestured down across the valley.
My father suggested we feast in the palace, but I insisted upon a more casual setting. This spot is dear to me ever since I was but an elfling. It's where I go to get away from it all, to feel like I can breathe again.
He gazed affectionately down over the beautiful valley. He inhaled deeply the air of the empire he loved.
There is indeed much to love about our homeland. So many have given their lives to ensure our safety.
She touched her wooden necklace from her father.
I am aware of what your family has sacrificed. I've read the records of our scribes, sonnets of your father's bravery in battle. His last breath near the wretched volcanoes of the Molten Riva Heights. A true patriot.
Ari wiped a tear from her cheek, hoping the prince would not notice. He caught her hand gently, caressing her moist finger with his. He whispered,
Let there be no shame in mourning, for it is how we honor those we love.
She felt the warmth of his hand. Her eyes fluttered upon it, then glanced up into his.
A dear friend of mine, Talia, would agree with you. My mother, less so.
He nodded.
With the ogre wars raging, there is much division within my home as well. It can be a challenge to navigate.
Ari nodded knowingly. He continued.
Hence, another reason I'm glad we could meet.
Ari's eyes widened.
There is a delicate issue that I could use your help with. It is whispered through intimate Imperial circles that your unique giftings extend beyond your ability to inspire with song. Some have rumored that you seem to be able to read people, to perceive the truth of their minds even more deeply than they.
Ari blushed, feeling exposed before him.
Some secrets are best left unspoken.
He smiled, understanding.
Wisdom indeed.
He bit his lower lip, considering.
You see, as my role within Imperial Inquisition requires, I am tasked with extracting truth from our captured enemies. We have a particular prisoner who is remarkably durable, resistant to my many colleagues' frost-touch skills, and even to my own flame-touched giftings.
His eyes momentarily flared with a bright red rage at the memory of his recent failures.
Perhaps you might unlock his mind, where words and physical encouragement have failed?
Ari gazed down at her bracelet, spinning it, considering the invasive nature of the request.
The skills you speak of, no Verdelvin has trained me in. They are still much of a mystery, even to me.
He placed his hand over her bracelet, encouraging.
Imagine how many Verdelvin lives could be saved should you succeed.
She gazed up into his hopeful amber eyes. She melted.
Yes, I'm willing to serve as the Empire desires.
Her eyes fluttered. His smile warmed her further as their conversation wandered to things playful and personal. Concluding dinner, he helped her rise from her seat. She began to stroll towards the carriage, but glanced back as she saw him gazing out over the beautiful valley below. Sen's voice caressed her ear.
Ari, you make me feel so free, unrestricted from the shackles of my crown.
His vulnerable confession unlocked her heart. The sunset kissed the horizon as the stars began to enchant the skies above. He mused.
You know, a carriage can feel so confining. Perhaps we might return you home in a way more exciting.
His eyes ignited in bright red arcane flame as his feet and fists followed suit. Alistair implored his prince.
My liege, perhaps the maiden might enjoy a less fatal route home?
Her eyes went wide, gazing far down at the beauty of the valley, then back into Sen's eyes, considering the possibilities.
Is it not dangerous?
She questioned Sen hesitantly.
Not when I'm in complete control.
She saw his eyes shift, the scalding heat of his fire cooling to a comfortable temperature of his own skill. She considered, gazing over the edge of the cliff at the deadly fall below.
Come now, Tirari. Where is your legendary Valdore sense of adventure?
He winked, pursing her lips defiantly, and eyeing him playfully, she accepted the challenge. She held tightly to the prince as he gracefully dove off the cliff and launched them into the sky. Sen's exasperated steward, Alistair, called out futilely, "My liege!" A squeal of girlish delight escaped her lungs as the stars flew by them. The rich scents of the trees they soared through caressed their senses. He dipped the tip of his flaming foot across the sparkling river, igniting vaporized steam swirling around them like an enchanted cloud. He dipped the tip of his flaming foot across the sparkling river, igniting vaporized steam swirling around them like an enchanted cloud. His ears savored the joyful sounds of her laughter and delight. Finally landing upon the entryway of her estate, Sen helped Ari regain her balance, holding her hands with steady strength. She gazed up into his eyes, lost within them. He gently glided her windswept hair behind her long elven ears.
Thank you for sweetening my evening, dear Ari.
His palm cupped her soft cheek. Butterflies tickled within her chest. Her eyes closed, tasting the moment, hoping to taste more. She felt his fingertip gliding down the edge of her chin. Her eyes fluttered back open. he whispered.
I count the moments till next we meet.
He smirked, then winked a devious grin. He graciously stepped back, his robes of red and black flowing like a phoenix. He ignited his fists and legs in a regal flame and ascended to the sparkling stars. Ari's breath caught in her chest. 1,000 emotions flooding her. She smirked and pursed her lips in playful frustration, gazing up. She felt like a candle that had just been extinguished, yearning to be reignited. She saw him disappear over the horizon in the direction of the palace. The massive front door creaked open behind her. The voice of her mother pierced the moment.
Are you to gawk at an empty sky? Come inside and tell me everything at once.
Ari exhaled sharply, yet obeyed. She survived a thorough interrogation and finally retired to her chambers to prepare for bed. Her mind still swimming with emotions of the night, it was not until she instinctively placed her hairbrush on the bed behind her that she noticed Talia was nowhere to be seen. It had been years since she was alone in her room at this hour. Perplexed, she sought her and found her not. Finally seeking her mother, she inquired,
Mother, have you seen Talia?
Lysandra, lost, skimming scrolls of imperial gossip, glanced up.
Who? Which one was she?
My attendant for years now?
Aggravated, Lysandra remembered.
Oh, yes, the slave girl. I have not seen her since you left. Perhaps she has fled back into the darkness that bore her. I shall simply conscript you another one upon the morrow.
Ari glanced down at Talia's wooden bracelet upon her wrist.
Do you not care if she is well?
Why should I care about the status of a lowborn? There is talk of many fleeing their masters throughout the Empire as of late. She shall likely be caught and punished. Pay you no mind. Get your rest, darling. You have far more important things to attend to in your future.
She gestured at an ornate sketching of the imperial family upon the cover of her gossip scrolls and returned to her reading. Ari trudged upstairs and stared at the lone hairbrush on her bed. She placed it lovingly upon her nightstand and paused, saddened. She met her pillow with a swirl of dreams, tangled with conflicting emotions. In the following days, Ari secretly searched for Talia with focused purpose. She exhausted any channels she had, as well as less reliable gossip, to try to find any clue as to the disappearance of the one who knew her soul best. Not many days hence, a fresh carriage was sent to bring Ari to her imperial assignment. Her levitating carriage door opened to a far more ominous locale than her previous summon. She stepped out and gazed up at the imposing stone structure of the Imperial Inquisitor's prison. The ornately carved black onyx of the citadel conflicted her senses, like a beautifully crafted dagger designed only for pain. The reinforced doors thundered as they opened to her. Rows of military guards eyed her, recognizing her, saluting curtly. Ari gulped, hearing distant wails of prisoners far out of sight being pushed beyond their limits of pain and sanity. She finally rounded a corner, escorted into an official's office space. At the far side of the desk sat Sen. He was still drenched in the sweat of exertion. Ari somehow read from within him that the sweat was not from the still glowing flames caressing the end of his hands recently used for torture. His ragged expression softened seeing her. He dismissed pleasantries and dove straight to urgent business.
I thank you for being willing to help me in this urgent matter. My commander is frustrated by my delays in extracting the information we need from a certain prisoner of war. This molten reaver monstrosity seems to have placed protections upon himself that my compatriots and I have not been able to break. There are rumors of younglings disappearing across our lands. We believe he may be part of it. He has not spoken a word in the common tongue or the tongue of his kind. Perhaps a softer touch may be the key.
He glanced at her delicate hands she had wrapped around herself protectively. Ari's voice trembled.
I have never served in this capacity before. I do not know what help I can provide, but I am willing to try.
Sen inhaled, remembering who he was dealing with.
I shall be by your side the entire time. The monster shall be restrained.
He approached, offering both his open palms. She slid her small hands into them, holding tightly, gazing up at him. He whispered,
I shall ensure your safety.
I trust you.
He rested his palm upon her cheek, smiling.
That does my heart much good, Ari.
Their eyes became lost in a fleeting moment of comfort. Sen's lips caressed hers. She closed her eyes, feeling the kiss send the warm feeling of fireflies into her heart. Gasping, her eyes fluttered open to his genuine smile. He yearned for another moment with her. He glanced at the chronometer on the wall and exhaled sharply, lamenting.
We must move with haste. The monster is between sessions and will likely only be conscious for a few more minutes. Please, follow me.
Sen guided them both deeper into the bowels of terrifying darkness. Arcane prison cells, sparking with shimmering protections, crackled as they passed. Ari glimpsed horrors within each. Savage island troll headhunters cackled madly with unnatural piercings. Gigantic ogres bellowed guttural threats. Bestial scaled humanoids chomped their long green crocodile mouths. All eyed her like fresh meat as she slipped past them swiftly. Finally terminating at the end of a long stone hall was a heavy metal door sealed with 6 arcane locks. Sen waved his hand, and Ari heard the shimmer and click of multiple layers of arcane protections unseal. Ari felt as though she was entering the den of a beast. The door roared open to reveal a solitary humanoid figure chained to a blood-drenched seat. A pillar of pale white light cast long shadows down from above. The Molten Reaver's arms and legs still had much of his ceremonial black armor on, chief of which his ornate black mask still covering his features. He levitated his body in a lotus position slightly above his stone seat. His long red dreadlocks hung down, covering some of his mask. His posture slumped, clearly having endured recent torture. Ari's eyes swiftly adjusted to the unnatural darkness. She could now see around the perimeter of the room a half-dozen elite elven inquisitors. Like Sen, they were still dripping in sweat from their efforts to break their solitary foe. One of them hurled a bolt of frost at the prisoner, with enough force to pierce through his chest, only to see an intense white flame encircle him, absorbing the attack. Another Inquisitor roared and ignited his hand with a mighty lance of red fire thrust into the shoulder of the Molten Reaver. Again, the prisoner's form erupted in an unnatural white flame, absorbing the attack, making him slump over, ever more exhausted. Ari sensed in the room a presence she had not felt since she had last embraced her father. Curious, she started to pierce the thoughts of the Molten Reaver, only to see his red dreadlocks shift upon his crown. His head began to tilt upwards until his full black mask with gilded filigree flared brightly. His glowing golden eyes focused upon her. She heard a deep, resonant voice echo into her thoughts.
You are not like the rest of them.
Startled at the sensation, Ari raised her hand just as the next Inquisitor prepared to assault the prisoner again.
Halt your strike!
She shocked herself with her own words, as much as the other Inquisitors. The torturers glanced at their commander. Sen nodded.
I wish a moment of peace with the prisoner,
she requested. Sen considered, conflicted. Ari gazed up into his eyes, imploring.
If it pleases my lord, perhaps a new approach could be wise.
Sen searched her eyes, finally conceding.
Give us the chamber.
His command compelled the exhausted contingent's exit, sealing the heavy door behind them. The prince slowly circled the prisoner, studying him. Ari thought,
how is one to perceive my thoughts?
The Molten Reaver replied into her mind.
The same way you perceive mine. The holy arts are incompatible with the skills of an arcanist. What are you?
Ari thought.
I am simply a soul seeking truth.
The prisoner's mind responded.
Then you are truly rare among your Verdelven kind. If only your people sought truth instead of conquest.
Indignant, Ari's mind raced.
My people seek only to protect our lands from those who would invade, like those wretched ogres or your kind.
The Molten Reaver slowly lowered himself, levitating down from his lotus position upon the blood-drenched stone seat, leveling with her. Sen's eyes narrowed, studying the prisoner's shift in position with vigilance. The prisoner's thoughts again met Ari's.
My people live deep under the volcanoes of the north. We chose isolation for our own safety. We have no quarrel with the surface dwellers. It is your people who invade our lands. It is your people who enslave the ogres as your frontline force.
Ari's eyes went wide in disbelief.
You lie!
Has your emperor hidden these truths from you? Such is the way of corrupt rulers.
He mused. The prisoner noticed the shift in Ari's posture, aggressively forward. He saw her father's wooden triangular necklace exposed slightly. The prisoner closed his eyes and nodded, understanding.
I am an acolyte of Elohim's sacred flame. I am forbidden to lie. Those who revere the symbol you carry call him El Shaddai. It is a belief foreign to these lands.
Then he glanced down at Talia's wooden bracelet upon Ari's wrist.
You hide many symbols your emperor would find objectionable. For what reason do you carry them?
Ari felt vulnerable. She covered her necklace and bracelet from his sight. Compelled, she chose to answer honestly.
Memories of those I love.
The prisoner nodded slowly and closed his eyes.
It is for that reason I am here. I desire to help heal these lands from a seeping corruption. I know where to find those who have disappeared. I see in you a similar desire.
He paused, considering.
What did your father call you?
Ari felt struck to the heart, yet safe.
How did you know my father is gone?
I can sense in your soul the emptiness of loss. One I too feel.
Ari wiped a tear from her eyes.
My father called me Arieva of House Valdore.
She could sense a smile from behind his mask.
Ah, I see. You are the blood of Lord Raylon and Eldrin before him. It is clear to me now.
You knew of my father? Who are you?
In the common tongue, I am called Ember. You suffer as many in these lands do, for you know not your own history. If you wish to learn the truth of your people before it is too late, seek the path carved upon your bracelet. It may yet open your eyes.
The prisoner closed his glowing golden eyes, and in a flash, Ari's mind was flooded with images of his memories. She saw the pale jade faces of low-born elves in exile, ogres' minds lost to enslavement, an unquenchable flame of conquest advancing forth from her people, crashing upon the volcanoes of the north. Ari became overwhelmed by the influx of memories. Moments before Sen struck the prisoner unconscious, Ari heard his final thought.
Seek and ye shall find, before you lose more of whom you love.
Ari's mind exploded in white light. The vivid shock of Ari's memory dissolved, returning her to the present moment. Her eyes blinked, taking in her current surroundings, a frozen cave with an ex-pirate and very pregnant Calum Shaw friend. Soreth's eyes were far beyond the malaise of the previous hours when Ari began recounting. Instead, Soreth focused with sharp attention upon her friend, seemingly returning from a haze.
You brought us into your memories so vividly. It is as if I could savor the scent of the forest myself. It is a marvel that you have been ether-touched all this time. Such giftings are far more rare than frost, or even my own flame.
She rested her hand upon her pregnant belly, regretting her arcane outburst against the Shadow Ravagers before the cave-in. Gazing down at her navel, an audible rumble of hunger effused. Tumult, feeding the warm fire he built crackling near them, heard his wife's natal cue. His rugged voice echoed through the cave. Alas, the fire be not the only thing that needs feeding. He lovingly placed his warm palm upon her belly and leaned down to kiss the wrapped tummy of his bride. His kiss then adored her lips, then her nose, then her forehead. Between each kiss, he whispered, "My light, my life, my love. With a sharp motion, he tightened the bloody bandage around his slashed leg and adjusted the crimson wrap around his wounded bicep. Ari could perceive he was suffering an excruciating level of pain. He wished his bride not be burdened knowing. I heard some slithering around the cave stream. I pray I be fortunate enough to claim a shimmer eel. He winked at Soreth and smiled at Ari. He unsheathed his saber and dragged his bloody leg off in the direction of the water. Ari raised her eyebrow quizzically at her dear friend. Soreth bragged.
I once watched him kill a kraken with a wooden fork. I have faith he's got this.
Ari could not contain her giggle.
Has all of your first year of married life been this exciting?
Soreth pursed her lips, considering.
To be honest, my tumult is a passionate captain and an impressively gifted swordsman.
She glanced down at her generously pregnant belly, then winked at Ari. Ari pursed her lips, eyes wide, impressed.
It seems that Captain Viral has lived up to his surname.
Soreth considered.
Well, like many roaring beasts of the high seas, he does snore a bit, and he's obsessed with solving my problems, sometimes without my asking. Often, I just wish for him to hear my heart, not just offer his labor. His mind and gift with words can be infuriating in an argument when my temper flares up like flame. But I know his heart means well. His strength keeps the monsters at bay.
She glanced at her husband, wading into the distant cave water, on the hunt. She then looked over at the cave-in. She could hear the scratching of shadow beasts echoing through the deep rubble.
Yet, there are so many monsters in this world.
Soreth gazed down at her pregnant belly.
Sometimes, I fear I must be mad to bring children into a world so hungry to devour them. I may yet be a horrible mother. My temper can flare, and my thoughts can become tangled.
Soreth shivered in the cold. A tear painted her concerned cheek. Fear choked her words.
Am I a fool to bring such vulnerable life into such a dangerous world?
Ari placed her warm palm upon her friend's face, wiping her tears with comfort.
I once feared such things. It is within the Verdell forest I learned a deep truth. Children are yet among the most beautiful gifts. What a profound blessing to send new heroes into a world with such desperate need for them.
Soreth smiled, considering, then nodded. She heard fragments of the most artfully poetic cursing, echoing from her husband down the cave. His ramblings finally became perceptible.
Unhand me, ye slithering knave, lest I wear thee as a blasted glove! Yar!
The elves heard a loud shunk sound, and then a triumphant ha-ha! Tumult trudged back with fresh injuries. His arm buried up to his shoulder, in the mouth of a slain eel, the length of a horse.
Who be hungry?
Drenched in eel guts, he beamed with a huge, wide-toothed grin. He began expertly dressing the meat over the fire and providing nourishment for the souls he loved. Ari prayed for a blessing from El Shaddai upon the slimy yet well-cooked meat. She besought the divine for a calming of the intense blizzard and for a miracle of help to arrive from their friends in Sanubis before they froze, or worse. Their feasting became more tense as the three could hear the distant clawing of the shadow beasts on the other side of the cave-in. A chill ran down Ari's spine, sensing the pack of predators' ever-hungering fury. Tumult gripped his saber and glanced at Ari. If we are to survive this, we must find a way to combat the darkness that hunts us. Ari considered.
I have seen creatures such as this in my distant memory. I had prayed that I was free of their hunt.
Soreth implored.
If you know anything that may help us survive against these monsters, we beg you, please tell us.
Ari contested.
My memories of them are but mere fragments. I do not know if...
Tumult encouraged.
We will help you piece together what fragments you give us. Please, tell us everything you remember of them and their origin. It may yet be the difference between our life and death.
Ari heard the clawing upon the rocks, thunder in her ears. She grit her teeth, nodded, then closed her eyes. She began to speak and re-entered her darkest memories. Ari's memory reignited after her interrogation of Ember. She recalled sharing fragments of information she harvested from Ember's mind with Sen, enough to confirm his impressions of her abilities. Yet, she kept the most private secrets of Ember's thoughts to herself. Impressed, Sen sought Ari's skills for several different prisoner inquiries, with ever-improving results. In time, the crushing news reached the capital that the Verdelvan forces had lost the war. Rumors of creatures made of shadow lurking in the forest terrified even the most stalwart elven warrior. In full retreat, the few surviving soldiers with shattered minds and bodies flooded the medical camps of the surrounding villas. Even Ari's estate had been claimed by the Empire for troop quartering. Her mother had nearly gone mad with the intrusion. Lysandra and the Empire had put excruciating pressure upon Ari to double the frequency of her ether-touched performances to sprawling Imperial amphitheaters packed with thousands of demoralized soldiers and countrymen. The lyrics she was forced to sing in the ancient tongues spoke of the glories of their empire rising again after their defeat. They waxed poetic in worship of their unerring Emperor Sylaxus. The melodies cried a fresh call of destiny for their Verdelvan ways to supplant the lesser races. It was a battle cry to reform and advance across the world in a reign that would rule for 1,000 generations. Ari's heart became conflicted as the nature of the words she was forced to sing began to weigh upon her heart. In time, Ari's ether-touched performances of song whipped the passions of her beleaguered people into a mad frenzy. Finally, she was summoned to court by the Emperor himself. Ari felt the crushing weight of responsibility upon her and requested the presence of her friend Vivienne on her journey to the Emperor's palace. As the two stepped up into the levitating carriage, even Vivienne could sense the weight upon Ari. She noticed Ari tuck her father's necklace and Talia's bracelet hidden from view.
Ari, you are distracted. Put out of your mind this embarrassing hunt for low-born slaves. Our people are on the brink of collapse. You are on the precipice of ascendance with a prince wrapped around your finger. Do not squander the opportunity any elf maiden would kill for.
Viv reclined hard against the soft carriage cushion, arms crossed, cold frost in her eyes. Ari sensed a twisted fervor in her friend that frightened her.
Viv, I simply wish to do what is right for our people. How am I to do that when so many are being torn from within?
Vivienne's voice grated through clenched teeth like an iceberg.
Ari, we are not children anymore. This world is more complex than right and wrong. Survive and claim what you can, lest it all be taken from you.
Ari furrowed her brow. She saw her friend contort in frustration, averting her gaze out the window. Ari glanced down at the edge of her ornate robe, barely exposing a sliver of Talia's wooden loop upon her wrist. She considered the carved symbols therein. One she recognized. Her pondering was cut short by the carriage door swinging open to reveal the most grand structure ever seen by mortals. The Verdelvan Imperial Palace reached toward the stars as woven branches from the deepest roots of the earth. Infinitely complex artistry that pleased the senses towered over them both, as if welcoming them into the maw of an alluring dragon. Rows of elite guards saluted, recognizing the presence of one they valued and one they tolerated. Viv felt which one she was. The immaculately dressed Imperial Vizier Thessilian coldly guided both maidens through what felt like infinite ornate halls. They passed rows of tapestries, worshipping the propagated glories of illustrious Emperor Sylaxus. Finally approaching a towering jeweled door, the steward halted and spun to face the maidens sternly. He spoke with sharp diction.
You are not to speak unless the Emperor has invited it. You are here by his desire alone. Should you offend him or bring shame to your house's names, you shall be executed, and your house's legacy struck from the histories of the Verdelvan Empire. Do I make the will of the Emperor clear?
Ari and Viv glanced at each other in terror. They shifted their eyes back up into the steward's and nodded assent. With the arcane wave of his fingertips, the two towering gilded doors glowed in sparkling energy and slowly parted wide open. haunting melodies, some Ari had vocalized in past months, echoed through the opulent hall. An intimately selected collection of the Empire's most prominent diplomats, military commanders, and land barons halted their murmured scheming to pierce the girls with their eyes. Immediately discarding the maiden dressed in blue, their eyes instead violated Ari. They licked their lips, tasting how she might be of some use to their individual conspiracies. Ari's innards felt twisted by filth, until she finally glanced into the distance. Sitting at the left hand of the throne, she saw a face she recognized. Sen's eyes were heavy, dark circles burdening each. His face ignited seeing Ari, yet in present company, he could not express any personal welcome. Ari could see that the toll of the war's loss wore heavily upon him. He seemed drained of life, yet filled with burden. It worried her. Before she could consider the weight upon his heart further, the perimeter of the grand hall ignited in ceremonial flame. The echoes of songs swelled into a royal dirge, announcing the entry of Emperor Salaxis. Shaking the souls of all gathered, he descended slowly from off the ledge of the central high balcony, flames enveloping him as an arcane inferno. His robes glinted with fractal gems, amplifying the light of his fire to near blinding splendor. He rested upon his throne like a dragon easing into its lair. His long white hair and perfectly groomed beard was brushed into a threateningly sharp point. The flames in his eyes settled, cooling upon the maidens in blue and purple robes, quivering before him. He let the chilling quiet settle upon the room, permitting those gathered to bask in the presence of his power. Emperor Salaxis' deep, calculating voice slithered into Ari's ear like a venomous melody.
Honored guests, you have been summoned to my presence to celebrate a richly auspicious moment. Though many enemy spies would plant lies among our ranks, claiming our military engagements were anything less than glorious as of late, I can confirm the contrary. Not only has our tactical retreat on some fronts purchased us time and space, but it has unearthed glorious new opportunities.
Ari glanced nervously over at Sen, who exhaled deeply, then averted his gaze, burying his heavy head in his hands. Emperor Salaxis continued.
We have had the good fortune to be offered an alliance by a mighty force, unfairly maligned by the lesser races. Small minds besmirch the remarkable innovations pouring forth from these scaled spires. Yet what I have been shown is invigorating. I wish to introduce to you an esteemed representative of our new and strongest ally. I give you War Chief Ulgrak.
The room gasped as one, hearing the heavy bootsteps of a powerful gray-skinned orc enter the chamber. His eyes flared with an unnatural crimson glow. His savage armor was hammered from the melted swords of slain foes. He eyed the thin elves of the room as if he were glancing down a menu. His eyes rested upon Ari, and in that moment she was convinced he may have eaten her kind before. The orc grumbled deeply, cracking his lips in a disgusting scowl, black ichor oozing out of his mouth, salivating. Emperor Salaxis mused.
Though our esteemed guest does not speak the common tongue, my alchemists have learned of the Scaled Legion orcs' unique new methods to bolster our elven ranks from within. In addition, they have generously offered their own orcish armies to aid our noble cause. All they ask is that we reactivate our dormant Etherstone Arch portalway, connecting our two lands to expedite their transport.
The Emperor's gaze fell like a heavy weight upon Ari.
And that, my dear Ari Ava of House Veldore, is why you have been summoned. I have heard detailed reports of your unique giftings from trusted sources.
Ari glanced nervously over at Sen.
I have been informed of your bloodline's connection to the hallowed Starshard blade that sealed our cherished Aetherstone Arc portal.
A shiver ran down Ari's spine, feeling all the pieces come together in a terrifying tapestry of fate.
What better way to honor the legacy of your great-grandfather, Eldrin Valdore, than to be the voice that unites two peoples and ushers in a new age of glory to the Empire?
Ari glanced over at Viv, seeing nothing but a fanatical enthusiasm at the prospect. She then met Sen's amber gaze, his lips resting upon his templed fingers, eyes hollow, staring back at her in desperation. Ari found her quivering voice.
My liege, I am honored to be considered, but I fear my skills in such things remain untrained. What if my inexperience ended in the desecration of our hallowed Aetherstone Arch?
The Emperor slowly stood, and like a wraith, closed the distance between them. All those gathered instinctively took a fearful step back as he passed them. Ari shrank as he loomed over her. His voice became more intimate and far more terrifying.
I would hate to see such an esteemed house as Valdore be burned into the ashes of history. If that were to be your fate, what are you worth?
She gazed up into his eyes and saw a firestorm on the edge of eruption. She closed her eyes and hid her face.
I trust you shall serve the Empire as your grandfather, the great Eldrin Valdore, once did.
He stated without question. Ari considered her words carefully and finally exhaled.
I shall serve.
The Emperor's lips cracked into a calculated smile, his final chess piece moving into place.
It is done then. The night of the next full moon, the ancient ceremony of the Aetherstone Arch shall begin.
Tension climaxing, the room exhaled, sycophants finally cheering the Emperor's proclamation. Ari escaped the chamber as quickly as she could while maintaining decorum. She moved with haste down a shadowed hall, still envisioning the black ichor dripping from the hideous orc's gray lips, nearly tasting her. She felt her wrist grabbed tightly, sending her adrenaline racing. She spun and covered her face.
Ari, why do you flee?
Sen hissed sharply. Ari gazed up into his amber eyes, sunken deep in darkness.
Sen, how could this be? An alliance with the orcs of the Scaled Legion? The horror stories of the Molten Reaver Heights pale in comparison to those bleeding forth from the Scaled Spires.
Vivienne finally caught up, eyes wide at the exchange. Sen glanced over at Viv and back at Ari.
What am I to do? Do you wish our people extinct? Have you any idea how many enemies we have made in this war?
He released her wrist, tossing it aside, frustrated. He turned his back to Ari, trying to collect himself.
My father's eyes are always upon me. I feel their weight. He has pressed me to command this burgeoning initiative of bolstering our ranks from within. All you must do is provide our orcish reinforcements a way through the portal.
He turned to her and advanced upon her, desperate.
I have trusted you. I have cared for you. All I crave is what I deserve. I need you now.
He placed his hand upon her cheek, pressing her up against the wall.
Can I count on you?
She tilted her head away. Her voice broke.
What you desire is madness.
Sen roared.
What I desire is you!
He slammed his fist against the wall above her head. His eyes were predatory with frustrated lust. Her eyes went wide, finally seeing through his facade.
I am not what you need,
she lamented. His lips furled in rage. A dark fire erupted within him. He seethed.
Then if you are not what I need, what are you worth?
The question hung in the air like a dagger to her heart. A single tear slid down her cheek. She slipped out of his grasp, fleeing down the hall. His chest heaved, a gaping void, abandonment, loneliness, emptiness, rejection, all began drowning his soul. His mind swirled with regret. He closed his eyes, pinching the bridge of his nose, his migraine scorching. He tried to stabilize his ragged breathing, until he felt a soft touch upon his shoulder. He opened his eyes to behold Vivienne anew. She slowly caressed her fingertips around his neck, drawing his gaze to her eyes. The coolness of her frost-touched affect calmed his raging inferno. Her eyes captured him deeply. Her voice purred.
In moments like this, we discover who we can truly trust.
Her fingertips glided down the curves of her chest. Her carefully chosen robe accentuated her alluring features.
Ari is weak. She does not have the heart to serve your highness in times of stress, in the ways you most need.
Sen's eyes penetrated hers.
What are we, if not servants of the Empire?
He mused, pulse quickening. She purred.
I assure you, some serve more profoundly than others.
That night, they became lost in the shadows of the palace. Ari sprinted past the open carriage and chose to walk home, feeling stained by all things royal. Each step forward felt lonelier. The gaping hole in her heart, in her identity, began to widen. Finally arriving home, she snuck through a hidden passage to dodge her mother's interrogation. Preparing for sleep as quietly as she could, she bathed and sat on her bed, placing her hairbrush behind herself, ready to receive... She stopped in a moment, feeling the emptiness of Talia's absence all over again. Especially on a night like this, oh how she missed her company, her counsel, her soul. A heavy tear scraped down her cheek. She glanced down at Talia's wooden bracelet still upon her wrist, now no longer hidden. Just as she began caressing the ornate carvings, she winced, hearing her mother's voice.
Did you really think you would find sleep before I found answers? Tell me everything at once.
Ari's mind raced.
I am exhausted, Mother. I beg you to wait until morning.
I've waited longer than you've been alive to become this close to Imperial intimacies, and I shan't wait a moment longer.
Ari had to give her something. She stammered.
The Emperor has granted me the honor of partaking in the ceremony activating our Etherstone Arch upon the next full moon to welcome a new alliance.
Lysandra nearly exploded in glee.
Oh, you don't say. And what developments with our dear Prince Cynthia?
Ari felt the fresh wound ripped back open. Her mind throbbed.
His feelings toward me have intensified.
Lysandra fluttered her hands together, exuberant.
What a splendid development. Your path is clear. Claim the prince, make yourself essential to the Empire, and we shall be living within the palace walls in no time.
Ari's eyes fled from her mother's. Her fingertips absently found comfort gliding across Talia's wooden bracelet. Lysandra noticed.
I cannot stress enough. This is a time for focus. Once we ascend, we shall have proper highborn servants again. I forbid you to waste any thought on that low-born slave girl, lest even the thought of her drag you down into her filth. Now sleep. A young face needs its rest. No maiden ever amounted to anything with an ugly face.
Lysandra slammed the door, returning to a flurry of grandiose preparations. Ari's chest heaved in twisted emotions. The room was dark, yet she felt a blaze burning inside. In her memory, the red fire of Sen's rage faded into a white fire of Ember's holy protections. She recalled his words.
If you wish to learn the truth of your people before it is too late, seek the path carved upon your bracelet. It may yet open your eyes.
She gazed upon Talia's wooden bracelet, and one of the symbols stood out to her that she recognized. She once saw it upon a map of the Empire, deep in the abandoned region that had been reclaimed by the forest. She closed her eyes and almost heard the whisper of a still, small voice.
Seek, and ye shall find.
She opened her eyes and chose to heed the mysterious voice. She equipped what little forest wear she still had and pressed into the darkness of the thickets. In the dead of night, she gazed up at the stars, using them for guidance. The woods darkened the further she got from the Empire, yet her elven eyes could still sense ominous shadows prowling in the distance. She finally arrived at an ancient stone door cut out of a mountainside with her bracelet's symbol upon it. Clearly crafted centuries ago, it was apparent this particular entrance had not received use during her lifetime. She recalled her ethereal studies, and through complex calculations called down fragments of pure arcane energy that appeared like sparkling comets falling from the heavens. The shimmering purple fragments began showering the door, imbuing it with energy, making the symbols upon it glow. Her elation at the door nearly unlocking was instantly killed by a large shadow racing towards her through the forest. Something had seen her work. She shrieked in fear and spun just in time to duck beneath a monster made of shadow, lunge for her head. It landed and slid past her, then morphed through itself, head swapping place with its hind legs in a swirl of black smoke and bladed tendrils. Its red eyes focused upon her. Her heart froze in her chest as she stumbled backward over a tree root. Pulse racing, she tried to crawl backwards to regain her footing. The nightmare opened its thousand-tooth maw and began inhaling, siphoning her arcane essence, draining her soul. She cried aloud, the terror of her 1,000 nightmares appearing upon each of the beast's 1,000 teeth, ravaging her mind. Just as her world began going dark, she heard an unusual feline hiss and barely glimpsed a smaller shadow flip over the beast, sinking glowing white daggers deep into its rump. The Ravager roared in sudden pain and spun around to face its new foe. The Ravager crouched its 6 legs down, preparing to pounce. Just as the monster sprung from the ground to shred its new victim, Ari thought she saw a massive tree slam down upon the creature, crushing its core, making it disappear in a tangle of red light and black smoke. Even more startling, Ari then saw the tree glowing white slowly rise back up into the air. Ari assumed she was dead or dreaming. Her vision began to sharpen. Her eyes went wide, seeing a new horror. The tree had not fallen. It had been wielded. A massive 10-foot-tall ogre lifted the glowing white tree as a weapon. It roared, preparing to slam it down upon Ari, crushing her. Just before he was to execute her, Ari heard a female voice purr.
Grumblepot, stop! We need her!
The orange ogre froze, like a stone statue of hilarity, leg raised, tree cocked awkwardly in both arms. Only his eyes shifted to his compatriot. His lips still obeyed the order to not move. Only his rumbling voice tumbled forth from his buck teeth.
Q, elf! Elf bad! Why no smoosh elf?
The rogue approached them both and lowered her dark hood, exposing her feline ears, white whiskers, and short black fur. The lean-on purred, trying to soothe her agitated goon.
Yes, Grumblepot, elf's bad, but we need this elf to finish opening this door. Then you can smoosh.
Ari's voice cracked, finding her voice, warbling with far less composure than she had wished as a first impression.
While I do appreciate your patience in execution, I do have little motivation to continue opening this door, if doing so would close my life.
She smiled pitifully. Q considered. Grumblepot wobbled precariously, still on one foot, holding a tree above his head. Q finally broke the tension.
You make a good point. What do you suggest, Elf?
Ari's mind raced.
I truly mean your people no harm, far less than the rest of my kind, as I'm discovering. Please let us see what truths we uncover on the other side of this door together. I feel it may do much good to help us all.
Q narrowed her golden eyes at Ari, unimpressed. Ari sweetened the deal.
And you may claim whatever treasures you find in there.
Q's long black tail twitched behind her. She stroked her whiskers with padded fingertips. Grumblepot's eyes twitched furiously between the elf and the rogue.
until he finally wobbled out of control and collapsed on the ground in a thundering heap. The large tree he was holding spun 4 times midair, finally smacking him in the head, ringing the large iron pot he wore on his noggin. Q finally acquiesced.
You seem to be the only sensible Verdelvin in the entire forest. It's a deal. Grumblepot, you can unfreeze now.
The orange ogre grumbled pitifully, piled in a dusty heap. She sheathed her glowing white daggers and offered her paw to Ari. They shook hands cordially.
Name's Quedix. You can call me Q. This brilliant lug over here is my muscle, Grumblepot.
His eyes widened joyfully. He smiled his goofy buck-toothed grin. He lifted the large cauldron pot off his head, tipping it to Ari like a hat.
Meet good you,
he rumbled. He looked down at his favorite tree and saw that its bright white glow was starting to dim, as were Q's daggers.
Aww. Happy tree, not shiny still. You make shiny again, Q?
Q sighed and tipped the last of one of her vials of liquid upside down. The final glowing white drop hissed into the dirt.
It seems we're out of the holy sparkle juice, big guy.
He flopped back on the ground, like a toddler missing his favorite toy.
Aww, this toy with my friend.
He kissed the tree stump.
We can get you another one later, big guy. Don't worry.
Q promised. The ogre's tummy started grumbling from exertion. Grumblepot started crying, then stopped, happy with a brilliant idea.
Oh, me do thing. Keep tree part of me always.
He licked his lips and ate the entire tree. As he was munching, Quedix shook her head and turned to Ari.
Well, at least that'll keep him full for a few minutes. By the way, you wouldn't have a refill of holy water, would ya? It's a mighty long swim to get another bottle from Parehu Jungle.
Ari nodded, confused.
Holy water? No, we don't deal with superstitions much in the capital, Q.
Quedix shook her head.
Never heard of the Fount of Living Waters? Wow, you folks need to get out more, in a non-invasion capacity.
Ari nodded.
On that, I am beginning to agree.
They shared a smile. Q continued.
Well, considering we have basically nothing to fight another Ravager, we better get inside before another finds us.
Ari agreed.
Indeed.
Grumblepot burped. Ari turned and returned to her complex weaving of the arcane. Fresh purple shards, like small comets, materialized from the air above them and pelted the ancient stone door, igniting the symbol upon it. Ari focused her mind, calculating with all her might, until the mighty stone door rotated within its base, opening the way. The rogue peered in first, cat eyes darting through the darkness, then beckoned them both to follow. Ari glided down the rough-hewn steps. Grumblepot grabbed another tree and followed. The ogre thudded into most every wall he could. Ow! His night vision nowhere near as sharp as the elf and the feline. Their trek finally opened into a vast chamber with hundreds of slots carved into stone walls. Organized within each were thousands of glowing arcane scrolls, immaculately preserved. The ogre and the rogue noticed a pile of golden coins and gems off upon a dusty dais and began carefully pocketing the valuables into sacks. Ari's eyes went wide, realizing the profound layers of history preserved among this forgotten archive. She saw a symbol beneath each row, one of which she had seen recently. She glanced down at Talia's wooden bracelet. Upon the bracelet, next to the symbol from the stone door, she saw another, the symbol on the wall before her. Her mind clicked it all into place. She flurried through the archives like a soaring bird, claiming scrolls in sequence, matching the symbols on her bracelet. Stories. Talia had spoken of her people's stories. She rolled the scrolls out one by one on the broad stone table under a pillar of moonlight. With each scroll of history she read, waves of buried truths crashed upon her. Civil war sundering one elven people into two. Highborn embracing the stars to unlock the mysteries of reality. Iruna embracing the forest, fleeing slavery. Ogres, minds addled by a dark force, compelled to invade highborn lands. Desperate elves beseeching neighboring races for help in their distress, ignored. The mystical Tower of Periculum, activated by a vengeful emperor to enslave the minds of the ogres.
Minds dominated, ogres used as a frontline force to invade the lands. Visions of global empire, burning throughout the world, unstoppable until... Her bracelet ran out of symbols. She felt her mind race. So many lies exposed. So many things she had based her life, her identity on, twisted beyond recognition. She started to go faint until she felt the presence of a dozen spears pointed at them. She stumbled backward in shock. She could sense rows of archers perched on the ledges surrounding the archive, arrows aimed at her chest. Her keen elven vision could even see shades of pale green upon the skin of the many wood elves threatening them. A gigantic golden eagle landed between Ari and the closest spear tip. The mighty bird erupted in a shimmer of green light and shifted into the form of a majestic elf chieftain. He was wreathed in ornate feathers woven through his leather armor. The chieftain spoke with gentle strength.
Hold your spears! I know this one.
His palm lowered, as did the weapons of the wood elves gathered.
Arieva? I could sense it, but I could not believe it was truly you.
Ari's eyes moistened, as if she were transported back in time.
Commander Valenwood?
She embraced him tightly, like holding on to a dear memory.
I have not seen you since the moment I said goodbye to my father. We were informed you had both perished heroically on the front lines. How can this be?
Valenwood gazed paternally into her quivering eyes.
It warms my heart to see you well, little sunshine. I lament both that which is true and that which is a lie of what you just spoke. Come, we have much to discuss.
He glanced over at the gigantic orange ogre and feline rogue, caught with bags full of imperial treasures, eyes shifting awkwardly.
Oh, and your friends may keep what shiny baubles they wish. Those trinkets belong to the Emperor, and he is no friend of ours. All that we wish to protect in this archive are the records you clearly cherish.
Never had there been a happier feline and ogre pair. The commander led his contingent of green-skinned wood elves, escorting Ari, Q, and Grumblepot. They quietly strode through enchanted mushroom forests, wreathed in sparkling moonlight. Finally, with the wave of his hand and a beautiful green leaf symbol made of light, Valenwood unlocked the last wooden barrier, welcoming them into their tribal hall. The chatter and song around the multiple sparkling fire pits quieted, seeing a massive ogre, a high-born elf, and a feline rogue escorted in. Valenwood communicated a complex hand gesture, then whispered into a fern. The entire tribe received the message, nodded, and returned to their business. Ari noted,
When I last saw you, your skin had not your current hint of green.
Valenwood glanced down at his exposed forearm and nodded.
Indeed, much can change when one reconnects with the natural world, something our haughty highborn brethren could learn from these Aruna.
Ari considered.
Much has changed for us all, I fear.
Valenwood lamented.
You speak the truth, yet I wish to provide you more.
Ari's eyes widened, hopeful for answers. He continued.
It shatters my heart to confirm that your father was indeed killed in this war, yet not by our enemies. He had learned of the Emperor's plan to corrupt the Tower of Periculum and use it to dominate the minds of the ogres who had abused us so. He was appalled to see the mind-control brutes used as a force to invade the lands the Emperor coveted. Legions of our countrymen were slain due to Emperor Salax's mad ambitions. After your father was assassinated, they hunted me. I barely escaped the military with my life. I was wounded and near my death when the Aruna took me in. They had been desperate for the leadership I could provide, and I yearned for purpose after mine was stolen from me by deceivers.
Ari sat back, face sinking into her palms, absorbing the gravity of what she had just heard, Her chest heaved in ragged breaths. Grumblepot frowned, noticing the heaviness settling upon Ari. He slowly approached, with a heart to offer her the comforting cup of porridge he was given by a tribesman. Q switched her black tail aside and quietly sat down next to them, listening intently. Valenwood nodded welcome to them both and continued.
The Aruna people have become desperate. Their younglings are disappearing in the night. Our every search for them comes up empty. Our scouts have begun to report glimpses of beasts made of shadows lurking in the forests. Fear grips the sacred woods. What hope is left for those being lost within it?
Ari's breath steadied. She lifted her face from her palms, wiping a tear from her eyes.
I know of one, a captive molten reaver. He conversed with my thoughts in ways impossible to the arcane. He claimed to know where to find those who have disappeared. The Emperor declares him as an enemy, yet another still, small voice in my mind has convinced me he is not.
Valen Wood's eyes widened.
I have known many molten reavers to be honorable. Perhaps he may yet be our light in the darkness. What do you propose to do?
Ari exhaled sharply.
If we are to light the fires of revolution, we may yet need to free a captive ember.
Valen Wood nodded assent.
That may be so, yet my skills lay in commanding armies, not stealth insertions into fortified prisons.
Q stroked her feline whiskers, considering, and casually spun a dagger in her paw.
I have a bone to pick with those who steal younglings, and the big guy is not too keen on those who try to control minds. I think we can help you out on this one, at a discount.
She winked and expertly slid her dagger into one of her many hidden weapon sheaths. Ari smiled, seeing a glimmer of hope in the eyes of her new friends. They rested that night and planned their extraction for the following evening. Ari expounded all she knew of the prison's operations and interior layout from her many visits with Sen. Q's eyes went wide, tasting every delicious drop of information, formulating a night of cunning. The elf, the feline, and the ogre traveled through the forest during daylight hours. They approached the towering prison complex as the sun set. The ogre nodded and trundled in the direction of the sewers, as the plan detailed. Ari quivered in terror. She glanced nervously down at Quedix and whispered from behind the thicket.
Q, I am not certain I can accomplish this. I am not one for deception or espionage. What if I'm to fail? What would I then be worth?
Q's tail stopped shifting as she gazed up at Ari with subtle pause. The feline rogue read Ari's fears deeply. She purred, trying to calm the elf.
I was the runt of my litter in the Parehu jungle. I was stolen and then sold. I am not mighty. I am small and often overlooked. I have lived my entire life being underestimated. I count that as an advantage, for if no one knows what you're capable of, they shall never know what to expect of us. Wear your fear like a shield. Let your vulnerability bring the mighty low. May our strength be in our subtlety.
Q rested her paw upon Ari's steadying shoulder.
Our worth is not determined by other mortals. I implore you, sister, remember that.
Ari closed her eyes tightly, absorbing the weight of Q's words.
That I shall,
the elf declared. Q nodded knowingly and disappeared into the shadows. Ari gazed up at the imposing stone prison complex, silhouetted by Tereth's 3 moons. She steadied her breathing.
May our strength be in our subtlety,
she thought. She stepped forward into fear. The security at the prison seemed lighter since the end of the war. Armed forces had been reallocated to more desperate places near the front lines, and to keep the peace throughout the Empire on the edge of collapse. Ari nodded at an inconspicuous row of bushes containing the glimmer of golden feline eyes only she could see. Ari then flipped her hair and smiled at a row of guards who admired her vocal performances in prior months. The guards waved her in the usual direction of Sen's office. Knowing he would be off duty, she slipped through the door and began combing through his desk. She found the key he kept hidden underneath a slot and unlocked a collection of glowing scrolls. She read of the cell block where Ember was currently being held and was puzzled by a note that read, "Holy Conduit, essential to ceremony." With no time to ponder, she memorized the complex arcane combination of his door lock for this moon's cycle. Ari then slotted the scrolls carefully back in place. She slid Sen's imperial crest off his desk into her robe and slipped out of the office. Ari felt the screams of prisoners as she glided down the dark stone hallway. She hid among shadows until 2 guards passed. She approached the first security gate and pressed Sin's crest up to the arcane dais. It shimmered in a swirl of blue light and hissed the gate open. She stepped into an ominous stone corridor that still reeked of pooling blood. Monstrosities of war, locked in prison cells, all eyed her hungrily. She sped swiftly through the darkness, counting symbols on the wall until she reached it. She caught her breath, seeing a lone, molten reaver, shackled on the other side of a shimmering wall made of blue light. Ember sensed her presence. He slowly lifted his head, red dreadlocks parting to reveal his holy mask, still affixed. The torturers had nearly accomplished their task. Several more pieces of his sacred arm and leg armor now lay on the stone floor next to him. They had clearly been torn off of his tawny-colored, rock-like skin. His extremities showed deep, arcane wounds. Ember's voice in Ari's thoughts was labored.
Arieva of House Veldore, I sense your purpose here. Though I am grateful, it may yet be too late.
Ember glanced down the hall, hearing the approaching footsteps of guards. Ari's thoughts entered Ember's mind.
Then haste must be our ally.
She closed her eyes and began shifting her hands. Purple arcane symbols made of light emanated from them. She began to recall the infinitely complex calculations needed to unlock the cell. The footsteps down the hall were now accompanied by gruff voices of warning, inquiring as to where her normal escort, Sen, was this time. Ari clenched her jaw as the footsteps hastened. The guard's inquiry became more hostile, just as a mighty hand was to slam down upon Ari's shoulder, interrupting her calculations. She glanced up into the darkness of the rafters at golden, feline eyes. Ari nodded, and in a moment, Q descended in a swirl of black smoke. The guards unsheathed their long, curved blades and sliced blindly into the darkness. Q dodged the strikes with astounding agility. Darting through the blades and smoke, the rogue puffed a sprinkle of golden dust from her small satchel into each guard's face with expert precision. One by one, the guards' minds went blank, then they collapsed, unconscious. The final guard gripped Q's wrist and barely nicked her shoulder with his blade before he too fell. Q hissed, clasping her bleeding shoulder. Ari's eyes went wide. Q quickly winked up at Ari, who exhaled sharply in brief relief. The feline began dragging the guards' bodies around the corner, propping them up behind a stack of barrels labeled rations. Ari's mind raced as she assembled the final elements of the calculations in her mind. She felt her chest tighten under the weight of the task. She gazed into Ember's golden eyes. She could see that he was praying fervently. In a moment, she was filled with hope. A peace rested upon her as she felt the infinitely complex puzzle click into place. Her hands erupted in a blast of purple light, shattering the translucent blue wall that was separating her from her goal. Her shoulders slumped, drained from the intense exertion. Ari verbalized,
Ember, please meet my friend Quidix. She may yet be our key.
The feline raised her eyebrows in agreement, opening her vest to display a generous supply of keys and lockpicking tools. She went to work on Ember's remaining metal shackles. Q's paws worked with lightning precision. In short order, the final shackle clanked upon the blood-drenched stone floor. Ember slowly stood and bowed to the feline.
May Elohim bless you, young one.
He extended his palm, sending golden light caressing the air towards Q's injured shoulder. She was amazed to feel the wound sealed, pain instantly reduced. She subtly nodded at the molten reaver in awe and gratitude. Ember pressed his palms together, eyes glowing white as he prayed. The discarded fragments of his sacred arm and leg armor began levitating through the air, re-equipping upon him in a swirl of white flame. He exhaled deeply, feeling his strength return. An astounded silence echoed through the halls. Instantly, they heard footsteps of more guards approaching rapidly. Ari whispered,
We have little time. Follow me.
The three sped past rows of cells until they rounded the corner and stopped at a large iron sewer grate. Ari and the rogue began pulling at it futilely, until Ember touched them softly on the shoulders and pressed his palms together. He inhaled deeply, eyes flaring white light. The heavy metal grate began to slowly rise into the air, nearly weightless. The elf and the feline glanced at each other amazed, then back at the Molten Reaver. He nodded to them both, and they leapt through the hole, splashing down into the wide sewers below. Ember levitated down, slowly, sealing the grate above his head tightly after his descent. The three heard the thudding of guards' feet across the grate, then disappearing down the hall above them. They began to swim through the rising water of the tunnels. The tides were swelling with alarming speed, and each fresh wave into the sewer nearly crushed their skulls into the stone arch above. They finally swam down the last aqua tunnel to see large iron rods barring their exit. The waves crashed through the bars, striking the three violently. Salt water flooded Ari's lungs. She struck the bars furiously. Her mind began to go hazy. Just then, she heard an uproar outside the bars from the cliffs above. 10 guards splashed down into the water, swimming away feverishly in fear. They were immediately followed by the largest orange cannonball she had ever seen. Bobbing up from the waves, she spied a very soggy Grumblepot smile through his big buck teeth. He gripped the bars, and with a mighty grunt, began bending the strong metal. The waves crashed against him, nearly pulling him back out to sea. He kept one hand gripped on the metal, then regained his other handhold. Q roared urgently, just before she sank beneath the crushing waves. The ogre heaved his chest, mighty muscles trembling. With a titanic roar, the strong metal broke, just enough for him to pry it wide. He squeezed his large arm through the hole he created. With 2 fingertips, he carefully gripped each one of the 3, finally pulling them out onto the side of freedom. The Fellowship of Four spat the salt water out of their lungs and regained some strength upon the sandy shore. They moved quietly through the darkness of the enchanted forest until they heard the growl of a shadow materializing with red eyes. Ari was still emanating intense arcane power from her exertions, enough to ignite hunger within a Shadow Ravager. The monster prowled towards her, preparing to feast. Q smoke-bombed, trying to confuse the creature, to no avail. The ogre struck the beast with his mighty fists, crushing its spine, only to see it writhe in red lightning, darkness restoring its form completely. It was then the Molten Reaver acolyte stepped forward. He pressed his palms together and prayed mightily. His voice thundered in the mind like a silent storm.
Dark creature from unholy lands, I rebuke thee by the holy light of Elohim. Begone!
Ember extended his hand in a slicing strike. Blades of white flame sundered the monster in 2. The Ravager then erupted in crackles of red lightning, disappearing into a mist of shadow. Ari's eyes went wide, beholding a force she knew nothing of. She inquired,
"By what power do you do these things?"
Ember spoke into her soul.
We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against dark spiritual forces. The sooner ye become equipped in the spirit of Elohim, the sooner ye may yet truly breathe the breath of life.
Q and Grumblepot held back a few paces as the 4 returned their trek forward through the forest. They requested Ember take the lead, feeling completely ill-equipped to deal with another monster of shadow. Ari, burning with curiosity, further inquired,
"My people are masters of the arcane, yet we know nothing of the holy arts. How did you come to learn such things?"
Ari could sense Ember smiling, even behind his ornate black mask. He replied,
Your people were once far wiser than they now pretend to be. My ancestors were friends of your kind. We knew the exploits firsthand of your great-grandfather, Eldrin Valdore. He was no mere military tactician, as your corrupted histories now claim. He was wise because he humbled himself before Elohim. He was a priest who became a Templar long before such things were outlawed by your emperors. He knew, as my people do, that trying to fight a spiritual war with studies of arcane science alone is the same as entering combat blind.
Ari considered.
I am the daughter of a culture that has become wreathed in such darkness. How are we to open our eyes?
Ember paused his walking. He turned to her.
You may have been born a daughter of darkness, yet I believe ye shall become a child of light.
What am I to do?
Ari whispered. Ember knelt with her, wrapped in the sacred forest. The two of them prayed together, bearing their souls to Elohim, inviting his will into the heart. Ari rose, face painted with tears, feeling lighter, yet more full. She could sense Ember smiling through his mask, a single tear trailing down his neck.
Welcome to a hope that does not die, a peace that passes understanding,
he whispered. Ari bowed meaningfully.
I am beyond words,
she confessed gratefully.
My wife and daughter said the same when they first prayed.
He smiled.
That is good. Well then, let me share with you some new words.
The four resumed their trek through the forest. Ember continued filling Ari's soul, teaching new prayers, hymns, and skills her great-grandfather once knew. The four finally returned to the safety of the Aruna village. They were welcomed with open arms by the wood elves there, who began tending their exhaustion and injuries. Ari felt bedraggled and exhausted by both the trek and the boisterous flurry of wood elves tending her and her allies. She sought some quiet near the river at the edge of the village. She collapsed onto a seat by a small crackling fire, starving. She poked a stick into the flames and heard a massive tummy grumbling. She felt the earth shake as Grumblepot trudged towards the hearth. He thumped his thumb upon the large metal cauldron on his head and said aloud,
Dong num num time.
He carefully gripped the cauldron's metal handle he used as a chin strap. He slid the pot off his head and scooped water out of the river. He then easily hoisted the now extremely heavy container over her. Some water sprinkled upon Ari's dirty hair, making her giggle. He then hooked the pot over the fire. She smiled up at him, wiping the sparkling moisture from her brow.
Oh, me sorry. Splash you.
The ogre noticed, embarrassed. Ari waved it off, giggling.
Fear not. I honestly could use a bath at this point.
He stuck his tongue out sideways and reached around, gripping a massive haunch of fresh elk meat he had stored on his belt. He chucked it into the simmering water pot.
It's just when tummy grumble. Need fill pot or get big angry.
Ari nodded.
Sometimes I feel the same way.
You tear off orc arm when hungry too?
The ogre wondered, startled. Ari's eyes narrowed mischievously. She then nodded her head, jesting.
Well, not yet.
Grumblepot squinted at Ari, judging. He then exploded in thundering laughter.
You make fun. Grumblepot like you. You first elf. Not mean to me.
Ari's smile softened.
To be honest, you're the first ogre I have ever heard of who is not a raging monster.
Grumblepot nodded.
Me not monster, me runt. My big brothers, two of me tall. They leave home, big angry, go fight elf and troll and reaver. Me stuck home with Ma. She teach cook. Food better than fight, me think.
Ari nodded, sadly.
If only the world were more interested in meals than massacres.
Grumblepot nodded.
No, only one of my brothers came home. His mind was fog. He not know why he left. He not same since war.
The ogre paused, sadly. He then sprinkled some seasonings into the pot, now boiling. Ari gazed up at her large orange friend.
My people return confused as well. Some have said war does not determine who is right, only who is left.
Grumblepot paused, meaningfully.
Ari, after big war, if we both left, you can always eat with me.
Ari smiled softly into his kind eyes. He offered her a bowl of his feast. Her soul was filled by the remarkably satisfying flavors. After a night of fragmented sleep, Ari and her allies woke with focused purpose. Ember expounded to them details of the location he was confident the stolen younglings were being held. Ari's eyes widened in shock.
But that is dangerously close to the contaminations from the Scar of Dolor. The wild arcane energy seeping from the crater warped the very fabric of reality.
Ember replied ominously.
Precisely the sort of chaos our enemies would require for their purposes.
Ari, Ember, the feline, and the ogre left camp behind Commander Valenwood and a contingent of his wood elven scouts. They vigilantly prowled the vast distance toward the edge of the Verdelf forest cliffs. They gazed down upon it, the Scar of Dolor, a massive crater so large they could not see to the other side. The warped vista took their breath away. Wild and chaotic arcane energies sparked and twisted their vision. Shimmering nightmares wove with fond dreams into confusion all around the crater. Ember gestured south to what appeared to be an ancient inverted temple twisted inside out. They climbed down the cliff face and crept into a dark hole in a rock ledge that led into rafters overlooking true horrors. Ari covered her mouth, eyes wide at the nightmare. Hundreds of unconscious younglings laid upon rows of stone altars, so numerous they disappeared off into the distance, wreathed in the temple's thick, black smoke. Blue tendrils of raw arcane energy were being siphoned from the crater. The flow of tangled blue light passed through hideous dragon blood crystals suspended in the air, tainting the energy red. Thousands of crimson light tendrils licked each of the stone altars, twisting the form of the younglings, each in different stages of mutation. Dark forces were corrupting innocence into monstrosities. The younglings whose mutations were most advanced had grown nearly twice their size, swollen with sinuous muscle and quivering with rage. The most degenerate appeared more feral than elf, their skin drained to a pale gray. Ari's blurred vision scanned the faces of the children frantically, searching for Talia. Ember placed his hand upon her quivering shoulder and calmly whispered,
"Seek Elohim, and ye shall find."
Ari closed her eyes and prayed the words Ember had taught her for clarity of mind and spirit. Her eyes fluttered open, and she felt a pulling upon her soul towards the corner of the temple far below them. Ari's heart nearly jumped out of her chest. Near the edge of the vast chamber, she saw children who must have just recently been delivered, as their corruption seemed minimal. Among them, she saw a small, jade-skinned elfling. The child's chest was heaving for breath, lost in a nightmare, yet she gripped a wooden bracelet tightly. Talia was alive. Ari nearly leapt off the edge alone, until Q stopped her in her tracks. Pointing off through the dense smoke below, the feline whispered,
"Guards approaching."
A mighty gray-skinned orc with glowing red eyes patrolled directly below them, followed by a pack of shadow ravagers. Ari held her breath, hoping her holy power had not ignited the scent of the ravager as her arcane efforts had days before. The patrol passed unaware. The group exhaled as Ember whispered into their thoughts,
"Steel alone is useless against such foes. Only light can dispel darkness. Extend your weapons."
The gathered contingent silently unsheathed their blades. Ember quietly hummed an ancient hymn of his people, amplifying his prayer of praise to Elohim with song. His eyes ignited in white flame. He extended his palms wide, blessing each weapon with a holy white glow. The Aruna scouts gazed at their curved blades, amazed at how light they now felt, yet how blinding the edge glowed. The contingent carefully climbed down stone rafters to the corrupted temple floor. They began unshackling the newest batch of children. Ari raced to Talia's side, pressing her palm to her cheek. Ari quietly prayed a new cleansing hymn Ember had taught her. Talia's eyes fluttered open, softly coughing up red smoke. Talia's drained eyes filled with some hope, seeing the one she cared for most.
"You came for me?"
The slave girl whispered in disbelief. She gazed down at her black ichor-soaked robes, dizzy, feeling defiled. She began crying, feeling layers of her nightmares wash over her.
I am sorry, my lady. such filth.
Her burdened tears mixed with the mud on her face. Ari cupped Talia's face tenderly in her soft palms. She kissed the child's soiled forehead and wiped Talia's tears with her fingertips, taking the filth upon herself. Ari whispered through joyful tears,
If I may, I don't think crying is ugly at all. What could be more beautiful than a heart honestly shown?
Hearing her own words, Talia gazed up into Ari's deep, violet eyes in a sisterhood that transcended time. In a corrupted sanctuary, they embraced with pure hearts. Q finished unshackling Talia, and Ari helped her to her feet. Talia's injuries proved too much for her to walk, so Ember cradled her, like his own daughter, as they moved. The heroic contingent unshackled as many dozen children as they could, until they heard the snarls of fresh shadow ravagers prowling through the thick smoke. The ogre picked up a dozen children onto his shoulders and began sprinting towards the exit. The thundering alerted further ravagers, and their orcish master readied his long-bladed whip. In an instant, the pack of monsters began their hunt of those fleeing through the darkness. Ember's glowing holy light guided allies through the swirl of fogged chaos as they ran. Aruna scout blades, blessed with holy white flame, sliced through snarling monsters made of shadow. They neared the sunlit cliff edge. A ravager leapt at Q, who bounded lithely over it, slicing two glowing white daggers along the ridges of its hideous eyes. An elf scout at the rear felt serrated jaws snatch his ankle from underneath him. He was dragged screaming back into the darkness. His wailing ended sharply with his life. The orc's bladed whip cracked and lashed around Ari's shoulder, halting her in shadows, drawing blood. She shrieked in pain. Commander Valenwood heard her cry and snapped his glance back to her. He roared, alarmed. Arieva! He dove into the air in a shimmer of green light and shapeshifted into a gigantic golden eagle soaring towards the snarling orc. His mighty talons gripped the orc by the shoulders and lifted him high into the air, dropping him down upon an empty stone altar to his crushed demise. Through pain, Ari nodded gratitude up at the commander. He soared forward, returning to his elvish form. He picked up a child in each mighty arm and continued racing forwards toward the cliff edge. The heroes began scaling the rock ledge, with the younglings clinging to their backs. The strong ogre carefully cradled 3 children in one arm and 9 more tethered to his belt as he climbed with his other massive arm. Ari glanced back through the shadows, and time seemed to stop. In the distance, high above the rows of stone altars, she spied the glowing red eyes of a handsome prince, face sunken in gray shadows. Senthir squinted through the swirling smoke across the vast chamber containing his project. Ari's mind raced. She leapt into the sunlight out of view, unsure if the prince had seen her. Her heart sank. She most certainly had seen him. The surviving contingent returned to the Aruna village, battered, bruised, but thankfully far more numerous. Talia was laid on a small Aruna bed in privacy. Ari sat with her. She began brushing the girl's hair maternally. Talia closed her eyes. Her chest heaved as she felt tears of nightmares being washed away. Ari whispered beautiful new hymns of healing into her, praising Elohim for Talia's rescue. Holy golden light wove beautifully with her purple arcane shimmers. The amplified songs rejuvenated the girl powerfully.
I have never heard that song before.
Talia marveled at its healing effect upon her. Ari rested her palm upon Talia's cheek, smiling.
I must depart soon to stop a great evil. Until I return, now you have a new song to remember me by.
Talia kissed Ari's hand in gratitude. They paused, noticing their matching wooden bracelets were touching. They embraced deeply and sang softly together until Talia finally entered her peaceful sleep. Ember convened the bedraggled heroes and expounded.
The younglings are not safe here. They have the scent of darkenest arcane corruption upon them that will draw endless packs of ravagers. I know of a place, a sanctuary called Sanubis. It is a floating city led by one I trust. His name is Father Geno.
Q recognized the Lux's name and reverently affirmed the new destination.
They will be safe.
Ari agreed.
Let us begin rescuing as many younglings as we can from that dark abyss. To do so, we shall need more hands.
Commander Valenwood nodded.
I shall summon the Aruna's scattered tribes.
He turned to a fern and whispered an ancient tongue. Shimmers of natural green light raced through the vines of the leaves, carrying his message throughout the forest. Envisioning the children still left suffering back of the twisted temple, Q exposed her fangs with resolve of steel.
For you, we'll do this one for free.
The ogre cracked his fist's knuckles powerfully and grunted agreement. Ari nodded gratitude to the three of them and continued.
I must move quickly to secure my family's heirloom, the Star Shard blade, before it is used to unseal the Aetherstone Arch. Should that portal become awakened, these lands will be swarmed with orcish darkness that may never be cleansed. I shall return with haste, and then we shall all travel to Sanubis.
All but one of those gathered nodded in agreement. Just as Ari nearly slipped back into the forest, in privacy, Ember calmly placed his hand next to her whip-injured shoulder. She paused, turning to face him. She heard the heavenly whispers of his divine hymn, praising Elohim for healing. Holy golden light traveled down his arm, transferring a part of his holy essence to her. She exhaled, feeling her wound heal, empowering her with renewed strength.
Elohim bless you, Ember.
He whispered through his beautiful, sacred mask.
That he does.
She could hear the smile in his voice.
Young one, do you wish my protection upon your perilous task?
Ari smiled, resting her hand upon his in gratitude.
I wish not to endanger anyone else by drawing them closer to my people's darkness, least of all you, dear Ember.
He chuckled.
You have the heart of my wife, and the rebellious nature of my daughter.
Ari giggled lightly.
May I take that as a compliment?
Please do. Growing my family taught me, life truly begins when you find something worth dying for.
Well then, I look forward to meeting them. May we all be so fortunate to have such blessings.
Ember paused meaningfully.
I have seen a vision that...
He stopped himself. His golden eyes flickered. He then bowed his head reverently and whispered,
Make haste. Destiny. Goals.
Ari glided through the enchanted forest with practiced rhythm. She felt a connection to nature swell within her that had been hidden from her entire life. She hummed hymns she had learned from Ember, praising Elohim. They filled her soul with a swell of hope. Purple, ethereal, arcane energy blended with a holy white light encircling her. Beautiful, glowing flutterwings trailed her as she ran. She felt her footsteps' pace enhanced. She finally approached her family's estate and was shocked by the swift disrepair it had fallen into. She saw an elven maiden with black hair crumpled near the gate, weeping. Ari approached, startling her. The maiden tried to hide her face with her hand, yet Ari persisted.
Viv? Is that you?
Ari held Vivienne's hand and slowly lifted it, revealing hideous bruises upon her cheeks and scars upon her arms.
Elohim, my dear Viv! What happened?
Vivienne's sobs were wretched.
Where have you been?
Her voice cracked in her chest. She noticed Ari's eyes shocked by her wounds.
Prince Cynthia is passionate, yet not kind.
She wrapped her arms around her quivering knees. She tightened them, rocking back and forth, sitting in the gravel. Ari could sense pain emanating from Vivienne's abdomen. A wave of understanding washed over Ari, nearly drowning her.
My dear Viv, how could this?
Viv exploded like dynamite.
What was I to do? The eyes of anyone who mattered lay continually upon you. What have I to offer a prince? What have I to turn his gaze? Why would anyone choose a frost-touched nothing, not when they could have?
She collapsed in upon herself, sobbing. Ari wrapped her arms around her. Viv continued.
Barons, princes, emperors, they're all the same. They take what they desire and care nothing for the hearts they tear out. Cynthia, with me, even my father, with your...
Viv caught herself. She gazed slowly up through matted black hair into Ari's violet eyes, widening.
You did know, didn't you?
Ari's arms loosened around Viv, retreating from her. Her hand covered her mouth, realizing.
How did you think your estate survived this long? You thought selling your heirlooms to my father was enough?
Ari nearly choked on her thoughts.
Sell? You mean?
Her eyes snapped to the front door of her crumbling estate. The door cracked wide, her mother standing in the opening. Viv rose to her feet, appalled at the ignorance of one she had called friend. She chuckled darkly.
How naive could you be, to be given so much yet to be so blind? For your own sake, I do hope you learn to abandon your childish ideals, lest they be the death of you.
Viv shot a glance across the courtyard at Ari's mother and sneered.
In moments like this, we discover who we can truly trust.
Viv shook her head and staggered back towards the Imperial Palace. Ari approached her mother hesitantly, as if seeing a ghost. Lyssandra's face twisted, noting her daughter's disheveled appearance.
You look nearly as hideous as that rotten maiden now departing. Come inside, lest the neighbors see you,
she commanded. Ari stepped inside the echoing atrium and turned to face her mother.
Of all the stains upon our family name, you think my present countenance ranks among them?
Ari's voice trembled with igniting rage.
Whatever do you mean, child?
Is it true that your dealings with Lord Desiree were more than financial? That father was murdered by the emperor he served?
The accusations echoed through the empty halls. Lysandra paused, as if struck by lightning. Realization washed over her. Her heart raced.
What was I to do? Your father abandoned me for his travels every moon. As he tended to the lesser races far and wide, how were my needs met?
She seethed.
When I heard your father was killed for knowing too much, I was given the choice to join him in death or serve. What good would my corpse do in a shallow grave?
At least the corpse could not tear out the hearts of those who loved her.
Ari regretted her words instantly. Lysandra's eyes widened, seeing her daughter's fire for the first time in her life. Her voice became hungry.
Yes, it is with that kind of ruthless passion you may yet climb the ranks of the Empire.
Ari's heart shattered.
Is this all life is to you? Craving the jealousy of those who hate you?
What else is there?
The silence was tragic. Ari wiped a heavy tear from her cheek. She whispered, her voice ragged.
A wise soul once told me, life truly begins when you find something worth dying for. I weep to learn that my mother never truly lived.
Ari could see something break in the heart of her mother. Lysandra's lip quivered, vulnerable, for the first time Ari could remember. She held her daughter's hand tenderly and kissed her on the cheek. Her head fell, and she retreated from the room. Ari glanced up at the high mantel where the star-shard blade, her family's legendary heirloom, normally rested. Its absence struck her heart. She grit her teeth and departed in the direction of House Desiree to reclaim her father's legacy. She arrived at the Desiree estate as the rain began pouring. Though it awakened every injury in her body, it felt cleansing. She slammed her soft fist on the tall ornate doors and was admitted into a far grander atrium than her own. She noted many of the decorations had belonged to her family the prior decade. She heard pompous chatter up the tall staircase dissolve into a voice she recognized. Lord Desiree's countenance soured as he rounded the corner and saw her. With him, Prince Senthier entered the chamber. His once handsome amber eyes now glowed with an ominous red. His eyes had sunken with dark shadows around them. The vitality of his skin had nearly turned gray. He was not surprised to see her.
Arieva, it delights me to see you again.
Sen purred. Ari felt the realization crash upon her, why she had difficulty reading him all this time. He was never truly alone with her. Something was with him. The new light within her could now sense the darkness.
I wish the feelings were mutual,
she stated flatly.
No need for hostility, dear one. We have much to celebrate, for in merely a few days' time, you have the privilege of uniting two peoples. and changing destiny itself.
He lifted the star shard blade, admiring its beauty. She grit her teeth.
Give me what is mine, and you shall never see me again.
4 orcs encircled her from the shadows of the room. War Chief Orgrak among them, Sen continued.
Oh, you certainly shall get what you deserve in due time. But you made a promise to me, and to my father, one that would be deeply rude to rescind. Stay a while and think it over.
His eyes flared a wild crimson. Before she could act, she felt War Chief Orgrak's mighty palm upon the back of her head. The last thing she heard was a guttural chanting before darkness. Ari could not tell how many days had passed when she awoke. She sensed that she had been well cared for in her unconscious state, yet the ornate bedchamber she was locked in felt worse than the darkest prison cell. She glanced at Talia's bracelet upon her wrist. She wondered if Commander Valenwood's message had been received by the scattered Aruna tribes. She knelt by her bed and prayed their aid would arrive in time. She was interrupted by her locked door, opened by a collection of 4 mutated elven guards with jade-gray skin. They were swollen with sinuous muscle and quivering with rage. Ari shuddered at the realization of what they were and who they were previously. They mindlessly escorted her into the dining hall. No food was served, yet she was seated with haste. Senthir entered.
I do hope some quality rest has restored your good sense.
Ari nearly spat.
Dispense with the pleasantries, for you have none left.
Sen nodded.
I suspected such belligerence.
Behind her, he rested his hands on her shoulders. She shivered. He slid her hair behind her ear and whispered possessively into it.
My father is not the only one who has had his eyes upon you and your recent dealings with the enemy. Perhaps I need to motivate you further.
His eyes flared red, and the door opened. Twisted elven guards with fully gray skin, sworn to Sen, escorted 3 prisoners in chains. Ari gasped, seeing her mother weeping, bound. After her, she saw Ember in chains, carrying Talia protectively like his own daughter. Sen caressed the star shard blade on the table.
It has come to my attention that your mother was caught seeking the counsel of our enemies. As you know, treason is punishable by the most torturous death. It would be such a shame for the legendary name of House Valdore to end with the grisly execution of its matriarch, though I assume no one will mourn the death of a low-born slave girl.
Lysandra's eyes were different now, filled with regret, shame, and something more beautiful, hope. It was as if conscience had ignited within her. Ari glanced at Ember. She could sense his holy blessing upon Lysandra. The thought warmed Ari's heart. Sen continued.
I trust now you will make good on your promise. Offer your lovely ceremonial song of praise, open the portal, and unite 2 peoples for a glorious future.
Ari's eyes rested upon Ember's. In the storm of her heart, he prayed a peace into her soul. Her mind heard a voice.
Have faith. Fear not. Elohim is with you.
Ember nodded knowingly. Ari closed her eyes and chose her words carefully.
I shall serve.
Sen exposed his fangs in a broad smile.
I do so love good news.
He sheathed the star shard blade swiftly.
Tonight truly shall be a night of legend.
As the 3 moons rose high in the starry skies of Tereth, Ari was escorted through the woods to the ancient Etherstone Arch. It loomed high above the tallest trees, an ancient monolith gifted to the wise elves by the dragon paragons, now a symbol of how far they had fallen. She gazed down upon the vast expanse. Far below the Emperor's elevated platform, thousands of Ari's highborn people encircled the ceremonial grounds. Between Ari and the distant portal, hundreds of rows of stone altars had been placed, Iruna slave children unconscious upon them all. Sen echoed,
Bring the holy conduit!
Ceremonial drums thundered. The crowd of thousands gathered, roared in anticipation. Sen's sworn guards escorted Ember to the largest sacrificial altar, centered among and elevated above the rest. His chains were tight, locking him to his knees, facing Ari. The drums rose to a crescendo and stopped. Sen roared.
Legends speak of a time when the fire of our empire ruled across the lands. This day, with the union of our scaled legion allies, our eternal glory shall burn again!
The crowd erupted.
Now, let us unite in worship of our divine emperor, Salaxis. May his blood rule forever!
He gazed up at his father. The Emperor's eyes ignited in pride of his son. Sen felt the fire of his father's approval within his chest. He glanced to his left, and his eyes flared red. War Chief Urgrak approached, dressed in a long black robe, malice dripping black from his lips. The orc began chanting in a guttural tongue. He stretched out his left hand and began siphoning holy golden energy from Ember's chest. The light passed through the orc's body, tainting it red as he funneled darkenest energy into the holy blade, corrupting it. Sen lifted the star shard blade high and turned to Ari. She glanced at Ember, seeing his body racking in pain. She whipped her head back to Sen, hesitant.
In case your loyalty should waver,
Sen threatened, as Talia was brought out and shackled atop the lone empty altar directly in front of them. Her face trembled, gazing up at Ari. Ari reached for Talia's hand, holding it tight.
Ari, don't be scared. I'm here.
She touched her matching bracelet to Ari's and held her hand tighter. Ari's face twisted in emotion. Talia's strength filled Ari's chest with hope. She kissed her cheek and held her tight. Ari glanced up at Ember, suffering. His chest heaved, yet his golden eyes were steady upon her, unflinching. She could hear his labored voice in her thoughts.
Fear not.
She closed her eyes and stood. She breathed deeply and began to sing. Her arcane-empowered voice echoed through the souls of the thousands gathered with an ethereal might. Purple shimmers erupted around her as it channeled into the blade, then into the Aetherstone arch. The portal groaned with the voice of ancient stones as it began to glow. A swirl of red, darkenest energy mixed with Ari's purple ignited within its spiraling center. The crowd cheered, legends coming alive before their eyes. Ari could see the dark shadows on the other side of the portal begin to emerge. She could feel the guttural grumblings of War Chief Urgrak, seeing his armies approach. Shadow Ravagers began materializing out of the darkness. They stepped through the portal with their masters, legions of scaled spire orcs. Red light began to siphon into the chests of all the children upon the altars, corrupting them. The Shadow Ravagers began to merge into a single gigantic pillar of black-bladed smoke. Red lightning crackled within the forming monstrosity. Feeding upon the souls of the shackled children, fragments of darkness began to materialize, forming one titanic creature of shadow and nightmare. Bahirath, the ancient terror, roared, sending shivers down the spine of the thousands gathered. This was not a part of the legend they expected. The titanic monster began funneling dark energy into the children at a terrifying rate. Ari's song faltered, blade held high. Sen glanced at her. Ari found Ember's eyes. His burdened voice entered her thoughts.
Only light can dispel the darkness. I shall give you mine.
Ember's soul fought against War Chief Orgrak's siphoning. He roared a holy hymn, amplifying the flow of golden energy, blasting more power than War Chief Orgrak could contain. The Orc Darkenist began to ignite in a white fire, gurgling until he collapsed to the ground as ash. Ember slumped against his chains on the edge of death. His soul whispered into Ari's mind.
I have one last hymn to give you.
Ari's mind cried out.
No! No! You must live! Your daughter needs you.
Ari could sense a painful smile upon his face. Behind his holy mask, he wept.
My wife, my daughter, I lost them in the war. Yet I have faith. I shall see them again in glory.
Ari was no longer praising the Emperor in song. Prince Cynthir saw the eyes of his father darken upon him. Sen erupted in red flame and pressed the star shard blade to Ari's neck.
Sing, you wretch! If I cannot have your voice, then what are you worth?
The world went silent. Ember's final thoughts echoed in Ari's soul.
You are worth dying for.
He closed his eyes and praised Elohim one last time. A blinding white light erupted from the molten river, filling Ari's soul with divine inspiration. Her violet eyes illuminated with a holy golden glow. She began to sing the most angelic symphony of praise to Elohim ever heard through the ages. Sen roared in rage. Just as he began to slice Ari's throat, he felt the small hands of a slave girl grip his wrist, pulling him down. The corrupted blade cut Ari's skin from her chin down her neck, landing in Talia's chest. Ember's final pulse of dying light knocked Sen to the ground, spinning the blade off the platform. Ari's radiant song blasted the titanic creature of shadow and nightmare. Bahirath, the ancient terror, roared. The pillars of crackling red lightning within it began to fracture into white light. The enormous monstrosity exploded into 1,000 shards of dark smoke, dissolving into swarms of diminished shadow ravagers. The glowing shackles upon the children's altars fell free. Chaos erupted as the highborn audience fled the prowling beast's rampage. Commander Valenwood blared his thundering war horn, leading the charge from the wild forest. Q and the ogre raced into the fray, dispatching foes with righteous fury, clearing the way to the shackled children. From the forest, thousands of jade-skinned warriors followed their advance. The united Aruna Wood Elf tribes clashed with waves of orcs, pushing them back through the Etherstone Arch. Shadow Ravagers began to scoop slave children up in their jaws, dragging them back to the arch. One gripped the badly wounded Talia and began racing towards the portal. Ari's eyes went wide, seeing her beloved Talia disappearing into the distance. Ari was shocked to feel Sen's fist grip her throat, lifting her up into the air. Ari's feet dangled. He growled intimately.
You should be mine. All I crave is what I deserve. I would have given you everything, and now you've chosen to die as nothing.
Ari glanced afar off, seeing Talia nearly dragged across the threshold of the portal. Her golden eyes pierced Sen's red eyes fiercely. She grit her teeth.
My prince, I pray you get what you deserve.
In a crack of purple light, Ari's hands erupted in arcane symbols. She reached her right hand far off towards the portal, and a violet glow encircled Talia. She then thrust her fist into Sen's chest, knocking the wind out of him, making him drop her. She encircled him with a second purple glow. She roared and ripped her arms together. Crossing them, in a flash, the prince and the slave exchanged places in space and time. Sen fell into the maws of a pack of shadow ravagers, tearing at him savagely. He wailed in pain as they dragged him off into the abyss on the other side of the portal. Ari released the energy, and the portal closed with a strike of white flame from the heavens. The remaining packs of Shadow Ravagers shrieked, burning in holy fire. They dissolved away into blades of black smoke. In a shimmer of purple light, Talia landed in Ari's arms. The battlefield quieted in an eerie silence. Talia's chest heaved, her breathing ragged. Her deep stab wound from the corrupted star shard blade was gushing blood and red smoke. Ari gasped in shock and began pressing her hands of healing upon her. Golden light shimmered. Her lethal stab wound started to mend, but the deep, darkenest infection kept reopening it, oozing red smoke. Ari tried to amplify the healing hymn with ethereal arcane energy. The first note from her lips sent a sharp spike of pain through the glowing blade wound down her own neck, silencing her. Tears ran down her neck, frustrated at her failure. She tried again, but the pain from her neck's glowing scar was beyond excruciating. Ari's hands tried to press upon Talia's gushing wound frantically, becoming desperate, until she felt a small, soft hand covered in blood take hers. Ari stopped her frantic movement to gaze into Talia's hopeful eyes.
Fear not, Ari. I am here.
Ari choked up, gripping the girl's quivering hand more tightly.
What you sang was the most beautiful song I've ever heard. Your father would have loved it.
Ari whispered.
As your father would have been so proud to see his little girl so brave.
Blood pooled from Talia's mouth, lamenting.
I have nothing but his songs to remember him by. The history shall forget him. Forget me. Forget my family name.
Ari's voice quivered.
My heart shall never forget your name, my dear Talia Espers.
Talia placed her quivering hand upon Ari's cheek.
And I shall never forget your voice until we sing together again.
Talia's lifeless palm slid off Ari's cheek. Her hand fell. Their bracelets touched. The little girl breathed her last. Ari's heart shattered. Her vision blurred as tears poured from her soul. She tried to cry, but every sound cauterized the glowing scar upon her neck. Every thought was a wound. Every memory was pain. Those who loved her gathered reverently in the sacred moment. Seeing Ari weep, the mighty ogre felt powerless. He knelt down next to her and felt small. Q let her tears caress the black fur of her face. She placed her paw upon Ari's shoulder and whispered,
I will never forget this, Ari.
Commander Valenwood embraced her. Ari stood, cradling the corpse of the little one she loved. She gazed afar off at the Emperor. The color left his face. He ignited his fists in flame and retreated into darkness. Ari reverently collected Ember's sacred armor among his white ash that remained. She knelt and whispered a prayer only he and Elohim knew. The victorious carefully gathered the legions of orphans liberated from their shackles. After some rest, Ari led their pilgrimage far to the west, toward the sanctuary city of Sanubis. Finally arriving upon the fertile green peninsula, she gazed up high into the clouds to behold the floating city in the sky. A Lux priest, with the face of a snow owl and broad white wings, slowly glided down from the city into the soft green grass to meet them. Ari's breath caught in her chest when she saw the priest was wearing a simple necklace with a small wooden triangular symbol. It was the same as the gift she still wore from her father. The Lux emanated a deep holy power, like she sensed only a fragment of near the molten river. The Lux priest spoke into her mind in a way that she had not felt since Ember had cared for her. His deep, gentle voice comforted her soul.
An old friend of mine shared with me a vision of things to come.
He wiped a tear from his golden eyes.
Your presence here confirms his prophecy has come to pass. I see I am not alone in mourning our dear friend, Ember.
Are you the Father Geno he spoke of?
I have been called worse.
He smirked, softening the sting of the moment. Ari let a sharp chuckle escape her burdened chest.
Welcome home, dear Ari. El Shaddai and I have been waiting for you your whole life.
She collapsed into the Lux's arms and felt a peace she had not known since she was a little girl in the arms of her own father. Ari's mind returned from her distant memories. The thousands of fragments and visions of her old Verdelvan life flashed through the thoughts of Ari, Tumult, and Soreth in what felt like moments. Her eyes fluttered, refocusing upon the frozen cave they were still trapped in. Soreth hissed, the visions igniting pressure from within her pregnant belly. The campfire that Tumult had made had nearly burnt cold. His strong voice anchored their swimming minds.
Thank you, Ari. I see now what must be done. Only light can dispel these creatures of darkness. I pray, please, bless my blade, as dear Ember did in your memories. Give me a chance to fight against the ravagers that hunt us.
Ari touched her neck scar, lamenting her deep wound.
I have taught others to amplify holy light through song, yet since that day, my voice has been close to me. Any time I try, I fail. Pain beyond measure.
Tumult grit his teeth, calculating. At that moment, he heard the cave-in's piled rubble begin to shift. The claws of the Shadow Ravagers in the blizzard had nearly broken through. Even more terrifying was the howl of a creature deep in the tunnels behind them. Elsewhere, another Ravager was burrowing its way in. The stress ignited within Soreth as she could feel her water break.
El Shaddai, of all the moments.
Soreth lamented and started breathing urgently. Ari's eyes flared, diving into action. She began praying blessings upon the swollen abdomen. She rested her palm upon Soreth's forehead, golden light soothing her mind. She positioned the blanket and Tumult's kraken-skinned cloak to make the mother-to-be as comfortable as possible. In the hours that passed, Soreth's contractions intensified. Her breathing became wails. Tumult watched vigilantly and tried to comfort her. He heeded Ari's advice to help prepare his wife. Tumult marveled at the speed of elven delivery compared to humans. Suddenly, the hairs on the back of Tumult's neck raised in a chill. He heard the growls of a Shadow Ravager approaching through the darkness behind him. One had found its way through the winding tunnels. Tumult stated coldly, "It appears there shall be no help from Sanubis in time." He stood protectively between it and the souls he loved. He unsheathed his blade, growling in defiance at the monster. Soreth began panting, eyes wide at the lethal threat to her husband. The monster slayer eyed the monster with deadly focus, studying every subtle movement, calculating. The towering Shadow Ravager leapt. The captain shifted his footing with a swordmaster's precision. 6 legs, unsheathed razor-sharp claws, swiping an inch from where Tumult's head had been a moment before. His blade met one of them with focused precision, sending the leg flying into the stream nearby. It dissolved in black smoke. The Ravager snarled. Soreth let out a wild cry and began crowning the head of the child free. The Shadow Ravager set its red eyes to the wailing mother. Tumult saw the shift, roared a taunt of protection, and leapt at the prowling beast. The monster's claws raked his chest, making him stumble backwards, shirt oozing blood. He gripped his wound and hissed. Ari gasped, attention urgently divided, and extended her hand of protection to Tumult, encircling him in a golden barrier, mitigating some of the pain. The priestess felt the effort drain her deeply. The captain spun just in time to redirect claws with his blade. Yet another set sliced his back, sending him tumbling to the ground. The Ravager pounced upon him and began clawing at his arms and chest. Ari's holy protections upon him shattered. His blood stained the snow. Soreth shrieked. The Shadow Ravager whipped its head up and began to prowl towards her. Tumult spat blood. Crawling towards his wife, he barely staggered to his feet. He leapt with a mighty roar upon the back of the monster. As the monster's 1,000-toothed maw neared his wife's face, he raised his blade high and roared, stabbing the creature through the top of its skull, dropping it to the ground. He unstuck his blade and beheaded the beast in a swift strike. He collapsed to the ground next to his wife, his bloody hands trying to comfort her. He clutched his wounds, shivering. He choked on blood as he whispered,
I am here for you.
He kissed her lips, nose, then forehead gently. He whispered between each kiss,
My light, my life, my love.
His lips pressed a soft halo of his blood upon her face. His hands quivered in torment. Soreth roared a final push, the cave echoing with cries of newborn life. Ari's eyes went wide, seeing the child weak, gasping for breath. It was as they feared. Soreth's desperate arcane exertions in the early caravan had indeed drained the child near the edge of death. Ari glanced up at the corpse of the Shadow Ravager. Red lightning crackled within its dark essence, beginning to reform the beast anew. Ari's mind filled with every fear she had ever known. She felt empty, drained of holy light. Cradling the child she was about to lose, Soreth's ragged voice whispered,
I have no holy training. I do not know how to pray well. Yet, my soul says I should. Now, for you.
She gripped her friend's hand fiercely. Her voice quivered quietly.
El Shaddai, in this place of darkness, save your child of light. Let your perfect love cast out her fear and fill her heart with your holy light again.
Darkness swirled within Ari's mind. Every weakness, every death, Ember, Talia, the many she had loved, the many she had lost due to her failures. She felt worthless. She was worthless. Darkness began to claim her, whispering to her,
After all the souls you have failed, what are you worth?
Love had betrayed her. Sen's question burned in her mind, consuming her. Until she heard the still, small voice of El Shaddai whisper,
You are worth loving.
Floodgates of pain released at that moment. Every secret shame she had hidden, every burden was lifted. She felt divine light flow through her like the breath of life. She laid her hands upon the child and praised El Shaddai in song. She felt the scar upon her neck cauterize in holy light. It glowed gold as her ethereal voice wove the most angelic hymn, amplifying healing power, flowing into the newborn. Vitality swelled within him as his cries became strong and vibrant. She then pressed her healing hand upon Tumult, pouring life into him. His breathing steadied as he wiped the blood from his lips. Soreth, nearly lost in elation, sharply cried aloud again. She noticed her belly was still far larger than they expected. She continued in labor. She did not have just one child in her belly. Tumult's eyes widened in joyful shock. He whipped his head back to the Shadow Ravager, who had nearly fully reformed. He unsheathed his blade fiercely and glanced at Ari.
Child of light, I beseech a blessing.
She smiled broadly, extended her hand, and sang a battle hymn that ignited his blade in a holy white flame. He gripped his saber tightly. And engaged the beast anew. Soreth wailed, pressing into the accelerated, swift labor of her second child. Ari cradled the firstborn son while guiding her second delivery. Tumult expertly sliced at the 6 limbs of the Ravager, holy fire burning the shadow, never to renew. Soreth pushed with blessed focus as her second child crowned. Tumult heard the rocks of the cave-in crumble loudly behind. Claws of a dozen terrifying Shadow Ravagers finally grasping through. As he turned to assess the threat, the Ravager he was battling gripped his arm in its jaws and ripped him to the ground. He stabbed up through its throat and sliced through its face. The monster finally collapsed, slain in writhing smoke. He crawled to one knee, leaning upon his glowing blade in exhaustion. He held his wounded arm tightly. He glanced back at the elves. Soreth breathed sharply, pushing with all her might. Ari prayed encouragement, but looked up at the cave-in crumbling further. 6 Ravagers slithered in, circling Tumult. He gripped his glowing blade tightly. He fought with blinding fury, felling 2, but quickly becoming overwhelmed, claws slicing him savagely. One broke away from the pack, eyeing the mother in labor. The monster crouched down, preparing to leap and feast upon the child. Tumult collapsed under the overwhelming assault, blade knocked from his hand, roars of torture echoing through the cave. The lone ravager bared its 1,000 teeth, salivating toward the baby. Ari prayed for a miracle. The monster leapt through the air and was caught midair by the hand of Sacris. The mighty Lux Templar's white wings folded as he landed, glistening in holy armor. He lifted the snarling monster up into the air and body slammed it into the cave rocks. The holy warrior's snow owl face roared. His golden eyes fierce. He spread his wide white wings, taunting the alerted pack of ravagers to him. His deep voice grumbled.
This day, evil shall fear God.
He unsheathed the circular hilts upon his belt and stretched his arms wide, manifesting curved blades made of divine light from each. The 6 ravagers leapt at him and did not live long enough to regret it. The Templar became a tornado of righteous fury, blades slicing through snarling shadows like an inferno through a dry forest. Sorith cried mightily, pushing her new daughter into her first breath of life. Ari carefully handed the newborn son into Sorith's quivering hands as the priestess received the fresh twin. A fresh dozen shadow ravagers snarled from deep within the tunnels behind them, racing towards the crying newborns. Tumult's bloody hand trembled, reaching for his blade as the ravager upon him tore deeper into his chest. Through the air, a snow leopard rogue pounced, glowing white daggers sinking deep into Tumult's foe. The ravager shrieked. The rogue Kavuli dismounted smoothly in a backflip, flinging a barrage of light-blessed daggers down the monster's spine. It collapsed and dissolved into twisted smoke. As Sacris contended with his final 2 foes, the fresh dozen ravagers circled those most injured, prowling closer. In an explosion of mechanized words, Roger Wrenchratchet soared into the cave's opening on a flying contraption of his own gnomish engineering. He lowered his flying goggles down his wispy white hair and yelled,
"Prepare to feel the holy wrath of gadgets!"
He unleashed a barrage, missiles of golden light, igniting the beasts of shadow upon impact with calculated precision. Just as the tides of combat were seeming to turn, the remaining rocks of the cave-in tumbled free at the push of a legion of snarling shadows. The entire swarm had found their prey. The gnome, the snow leopard, and even Sacris began to retreat, encircling to protect the bleeding captain, exhausted elves, and wailing newborns. Ari, completely drained, whispered one final prayer. The entire cave entrance started to darken with the advance of the Shadow's legions. Sacris gripped his weapons, snarling. The gnome's white beard twitched, calculating the certainty of their approaching doom. The feline pawed his many empty weapon sheaths urgently. Tumult, clutching his bleeding ribs, propped himself up against a boulder. He dragged his bloody saber through the snow into his lap, preparing to make his last stand. Sorith, heaving from exertion, reached for Ari's hand and closed her eyes. The snarls of the approaching wave of death echoed through their ears like the ancient call of doom. In a flash, every boulder began levitating up off the ground. The blizzard's flakes of snow outside the cave stopped midair. A swell of holy song permeated from the heavens, making the legions of ravagers turn to face the light. The levitating boulders ignited in a holy white fire and rocketed towards the shadow ravagers in a barrage of divine retribution. Each strike ignited a ravager in holy flame that spread through the packs. They shrieked as they twisted in blades of darkness, all dissolving into the abyss. Descending from white clouds, Father Geno landed. His snow owl eyes glowed with golden fury. his white feathered hands pressed together in mighty faith. His taloned feet touched the ground, and the snow that had stopped mid-air again began to fall. The beleaguered few, holed up in the cave, erupted in glorious praise of El Shaddai for the miracle of protection. Geno entered the oppressive darkness of the cave. He approached the exhausted mother, and his eyes warmed at the sight of newborn life.
Truly, El Shaddai can bring light to any darkness. Beloved Tumult and Sorith, may your family grow, wreathed in blessing.
He laid his hands slowly upon the captain, the elf, and the 2 newborn children in turn. He filled them each with holy light, strengthening the newborns, restoring the elves' exhaustion, and healing the captain's mortal wounds. Warm embraces and cheer filled the frozen cave. The snow leopard rogue approached the captain. He extended his paw to help him to his feet.
How did ye find us?
Tumult marveled. Kavuli chuckled, sheathing his favorite glowing white daggers.
My dear friend, you are easy to track. I could have smelled your salty stink from the Breu jungle.
They both erupted in laughter in a relieved embrace. The elderly gnome dismounted his flying contraption and raised his goggles up through his messy white hair. He paternally hobbled over to his favorite arcanist and kissed Sorith on her forehead softly. His eyes went wide, delighted by a surprise.
Not 1, but 2 younglings? What a blessing! But oh, I shall have to modify the baby crib design immediately. Do I calculate for a 50% increase of width? Or maybe add a secondary layer?
He wandered off, lost in his whimsical gnomish calculations. Sacris approached the ex-pirate. The towering Templar rested his gauntleted palm upon the human's shoulder, steadying him.
Captain, I must say I'm appalled you so brazenly departed on a deadly adventure without inviting me. Some sins are harder to forgive than others.
His stoic snow owl face winked knowingly. He almost smiled. Tumult rested his own palm upon his brother-in-arm's shoulder gratefully. He retorted,
I trust you'll get more practice at forgiveness, the longer you know me. After all, I do so enjoy foul company.
Tumult's wry smile was big enough for them both. Geno extended his feathered hand down to Ari, helping her stand after hours of her healing and delivery exertions. She embraced him warmly. He whispered,
It does my soul such good to hear your song again, Sister Ari, for no wounds are beyond his healing.
She touched her neck scar, finally noticing the burden it once was no longer shackled her.
I owe you more than my life.
She wiped a tear from her eye.
A gift never requires repayment.
His smile warmed her soul. His soothing, resonant voice swelled enough for everyone to hear. He spread his wings wide.
Come, let us return to Sanubis.
He glanced at the newborns, then winked at Ari.
We have much to celebrate.
Their travels to Tumult's ship, then to the port of Sanubis, were filled with cheer and stories of adventure. The heroes finally ascended on Luck's wing and Griffin up into the floating sanctuary city in the sky. Ari approached the House of Espris orphanage she founded with Father Geno's support years before. She exhaled deeply, flooded with bittersweet memories of the little girl who inspired its namesake. They settled into their rooms and finally found some rest. The next day, Ari woke with the rays of the sun. She prayed deep gratitude for her life spared, honored to have another day to show love. She spent her day serving the many children of the orphanage, teaching them to sing hymns of praise and wisdom. She tended the sick and healed the wounded. She welcomed pilgrims who had traveled far to join the mission. Nearly spent from her day of exertion, she washed up and prepared for dinner. As she opened the wooden door to the dining hall, she heard a thundering from the dozens of beloved souls gathered. Ari chuckled in disbelief.
I had forgotten.
All her dearest friends she called family overwhelmed her with cheers and hugs. Tears ran down her face, exuberant. Kavuli picked her up and twirled her around with feline agility, purring in delight. Sacris nodded affectionately, and for her, finally smiled. Tumult embraced her deeply, overjoyed to celebrate one who had brought him back from the brink of death so many times. Tumult walked over to Sorith and relieved her of both newborns, bouncing them with fatherly joy. He kissed her lips, nose, then forehead gently. He whispered between each kiss, "My light, my life, my love." Sorith approached and wrapped her arms around her dearest friend. They gazed, smiling into each other's moist eyes, holding hands. Hundreds of emotions flooding them both with pure happiness. The crowd parted to reveal a lithe black feline who lowered her roguish hood. Quedix stepped forward and Ari's heart melted. The feline purred.
Now, Ari, I would never miss your birthday.
They embraced meaningfully.
I hope you have more food,
she warned as the entire doorway filled with a gigantic orange ogre. Grumblepot's lovable, goofy grin filled Ari's chest with giggles. The ogre lifted a massive fresh haunch of prime elk meat from his belt and declared,
"Ari, after big war, you can always eat with me."
She collapsed into his thigh and hugged him deeply as he rested his massive palm upon the small of her back gently. Quedix gazed at the other feline Kavuli across the room, her pupils dilated primally. She purred to Ari, tail swishing.
My. Now who is that handsome furball?
Kavuli's tall ears perked up, suddenly feeling like prey. His eyes went wide, making a silly face. He glanced up at Tumult.
"Should I be afraid?"
He jested playfully. Tumult chuckled. Probably. The wingman smacked Kavuli on the back, pushing him in the direction of Q. The jovial gnome Roger Wrenchratchet climbed up and sat upon Grumblepot's shoulder. He raised his glass and cheered.
Happy birthday, Ari, and here's to many more joyful years.
The crowd cheered agreement, and Father Geno offered a prayer for the bountiful feast. The celebration blossomed into the late evening. They all gathered around the massive fireplace to share gifts and sing songs of adventure and joyful praise. Geno and Ari melted hearts, closing the evening with Amaris's favorite hymn. After the celebration calmed and hugs of departure were shared, Ari found herself gazing into the fire quietly. Her eye caught an ember, bright and vibrant, burn out and turn cold. She missed her friend, Ember, the molten reaver who believed in her, who gave his life to awaken the child of light within her. She then glanced down at her carved wooden bracelet and wished Talia could have joined her tonight in song. The joys of the evening dimmed as a bittersweet sadness rested upon her heart. She said her last goodnights and wandered across the hall towards her chambers. She cracked the door and sat upon her bed, her mind still swimming with memories of her life in the Verdelf forest. Absently, she placed her hairbrush behind her on the bed, out of old habit. Then, she caught herself. She was alone, and would never again have the sister she lost. She closed her eyes and felt the pain wash over her anew. She saw Talia's smile in her thoughts disappear like smoke. She began to weep, trying to summon the image again in her mind, yet failed. She buried her face in her hands, yearning for that which she could never again have, until she felt the soothing touch of her brush slowly caressing through her hair. In a moment, her heart flooded with a glimmer of hope. Her tear-blurred vision opened to see her dear Sorith, eyes soft, caring for her as only a sister could. Ari welled up in tears as Sorith simply cared for her. She felt pure, simple love. Tumult quietly entered, holding both peacefully sleeping newborns. He smiled and offered his daughter for Ari to hold. She lit up at the privilege. As Ari took the child into her arms, Sorith whispered,
"We four would not be alive if it were not for you, just as you would have perished had it not been for those you loved long ago. Tummy and I have discussed it, and we agree. We wish to honor the two who saved us all. We have named our most valuable treasures, Ember and Talia. May their legacies live on in the faith, hope, and love that grows here.
A well of emotion broke within Ari. She gazed into the peaceful face of the beautiful newborn in her arms. She closed her eyes, hoping to feel that which she could only see, her breath caught in her chest, overwhelmed by the presence. She felt the hope of El Shaddai emanating from Talia. Ari could sense it in this sacred moment. Something was right. You decide what happens next. Join Father Geno on his first adventure establishing the majestic floating city of Sanubis in your very own tabletop role-playing legend game. Download your adventure guide now for free at heroesofprovidenceeternal.com. Hungry for more? Experience the prequel to this story of Captain Tumult in our swashbuckling pirate fantasy audio drama, Sea and Saber.
And to create your own stories with family and friends, get your copy of CARDtographer, our cooperative storytelling card game for legendary heroes at CARDtographer.com. If you would enjoy more audio dramas like this, please support us on Patreon.
Become the hero you were born to be at heroesofprovidenceeternal.com.